But can you trust your sight? In Welcome to Paranormal Roundtable. I'm your host, Josh Turner, and this is PRT. So, let's let some people get in this chat here. This is Sunday edition. Didn't look at my phone for a couple hours, and I got like literally 12 texts.
That's how it goes.
So I'm sort of looking, I'm like, whoa, what is all that? So tonight we thought we'd do something a little differently. We kind of had a show planned, and then we said, you know what? We have so many other things to talk about. And there's so many people that are like, hey, you didn't tell my encounter, you didn't tell my encounter. And I'm not making fun of anybody or talking down to anybody. But there have been some people who have been just really, how would you describe it, Anthony? Rabid?
Let's call it excited. Adamant.
Adamant.
Yeah,
They're very
go.
adamant that we tell their story, or they're going to, expose us for being meanie heads. I don't know.
Big fat meanie heads.
Big fat meanie heads. Now, they're nice people.
Pupakaka heads even.
Pupakaka heads. They're nice people, and they just want their story told. And unfortunately, it is not first come, first serve. We have to go through. But this one particular person, she was like, I told you my story months ago. And she's actually right, but she's wrong. She told me her story 3 years ago.
Wow.
And now why she waited so long to come, and so I'm gonna say this from the bottom of my heart. I did not. It just slipped through the cracks.
Yeah.
Know? And so
it's a lot of emails.
Her name is Marissa, and she sent me an email 3 years ago. And this is what, 2024? So it's like 2021. And so so your first reaction, it's a good story. And I went and I looked it up, and I did not find it because you remember we had the email dump.
Yeah.
And tell the people that really happened. I'm not making that up.
No, actually, it was hard for me to believe at the time because I never seen an email fill up, but my uncle managed to do it. He managed to do it because like they give you so many gigabytes of storage for your email, and an email is not that big of a file. So to fill up, I don't know how many, like 20, 50 gigabytes, whatever, how many gigabytes, to fill that up, it takes a crap ton of emails because the file sizes are so tiny. But I've had the same personal email address for like over a decade. I still haven't filled it up. But hell, we started the show 2019, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
some of those emails
time is filled up. Well, no, actually, we got the Josh Turner email address like probably 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. So in an even shorter time.
But it was the Das Wolfman.
Yeah.
Yeah, from then. And then we had emails going back before the show even, because I was on that other show. And so people think that I started here. I didn't. I started on another show, but I was doing things in this field off and on since I'd say 2012.
Yeah.
First time I ever corresponded with Lyle, Ken, or even Barton was, I think, around that time. And I messaged them, and what was cool about those three, they were the only three I had messaged, along with Linda. All four of them actually messaged me back, which was cool. Yeah, and I was a nobody. I hadn't even gone on to DER at that time. And so, kudos to them for being nice people. They were just like, hey, it's cool that you're excited about it. And they all kind of just patted me on the head like, that's good. Good job, kid, Being nice, Linda was very sweet. And I have to say, when I first went to VC, he messaged me back right away.
Yeah.
But, he's got a show that he's doing weekly. And so he has to have somebody on there every week.
Yeah.
Which I don't agree with. I think there's a flaw in that, but there's a flaw in everything. And, everybody's got their own system. And we definitely had a flaw in our system because the emails were just piling up. And so you have to kind of go like, okay, yeah, I got to get this done. So this kid, Now, she ain't a kid. She's not a girl. She's a 40. She's in her early 40s. I know that. But she messaged me and she says, I lived in Birmingham, Alabama. And I had a sighting with something that I know was not a dog man, but it was some type of cryptid. And so we're going to get into that. And so immediately my reaction, I looked at the, she had a screenshot of the email. I said, I don't remember you emailing me. She sent a screenshot of it. She said, you responded. And I guess it was me. I get it. It was me. And I wasn't snarky, but I said, how do you know it wasn't a Bigfoot? And she's like, Bigfoot to me, if I'm not mistaken, she was very polite. She says on the email response, if I'm not mistaken, Bigfoot does not look like this. And so, no, it does not. And so we're going to get into that. That's cool. One we're going to talk about. And then we're going to do a little bit of talking about what may or may not have been a Mothman. That's what this is. Mothman.
Dang, that's a cool shirt.
Herald of Doom, yes. And so now this one, I decided, let's just do some from the South. This one was from Mississippi. So we had another one from Alabama, was Montgomery. So we had Birmingham and Montgomery, and then we had one from Mississippi. And someone had said that they hadn't heard me mention Tupelo on the show before, and I said, yeah, Tupelo. But this one was definitely. This one's interesting. The reason I really like this one is because when we did the one about the little small, I wouldn't even call it a town, I wouldn't even call it a village, it's got a name. I don't know if we should say it because there's not many people that live there. But when we did the investigation where there was a dog man, the first one where we did, there was a dog man and a spirit that seemed to be two separate things, but they were both happening at the same time. This one was very similar to that. This person lived south of Tupelo, and they were saying that they moved into a house that their grandmother had passed down, and there was something that came out of the mirror one night, and they were seeing not these, it was one particular, like a shadow being that they were seeing pretty regular, but then there was something that just walked out of a mirror, and it stood next to this shadow being. And so they were standing there together. One was like the shadow of a man. The other one looked very much, well, when we get to the story, you'll hear it. So that one, and then the two from Alabama, we're going to go with those for tonight. We're going to get started on those, but we're going to let some people hit the chat. I got some funny emails, man. Somebody sent me an email the other day, and they said, you're really good at making up stories. And I said, I wish I was, because I'd be Stephen King. There's a market for that, and you could be rich if you could do that yourself. Some
of the stuff is like you can't make it up. It's just so off.
You would have to be like the most creative genius in the world, So yeah, I mean, you could.
There's not really even a need to make up stuff. Reality is crazy.
You don't need to. When people bring it to you, though, but it is to me on how you tell it. Now you can really F somebody's story up.
Yeah, presentation is everything.
I'm not going to lie. I was watching a smaller channel a couple days ago, and I mean, I don't know this guy. I'm not even going to mention his name. But the story sounded incredible, but he was just effing it up.
Yeah, storytelling is an art.
But he was also kind of reading it and then kind of talking about it, and I was like, all I can say for them is like, just hang in there and get better. You know what I mean? And if you need to, practice in front of a mirror. Somebody asked me one day, they said, do you practice from a mirror? I said, no. but I mean, people do.
Yeah.
People do.
You're just naturally extroverted.
Yeah. I've known a lot of actors that were good people. Not all of them were, drinking blood from children.
Yeah.
But, I mean, so there's some, and they do practice in front of a mirror.
Yeah.
And then I got another one that says, we're on to you, man. We know you're a government shill. And I've had other ones that said that I'm a paid actor.
Well, where's this big paycheck then?
Like, dude,
still waiting on that.
Please, show me the money. Where is the money at? I'm waiting for that big payday from these shadow government. I don't think, that's another thing too. The shadow government, they may not pay you. I still think it's people that get in trouble.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then they use that, whatever their sin is, and then they become a shill. That's how I think it happens.
Very opportunistic and strategic.
Yeah. And then maybe they pay them. They said, look, we know you're a deviant like we are. You want to get paid to do it? Or you can go to prison. It's your choice. We have a guy you need to take down. His name is Josh Turner. They're like, Josh who? Josh Turner, like the country singer. Oh, yeah, long black train. Shut up. This guy's horrible. We got to get rid of him. But we're the bad guy, so he's really not a bad guy. He's a good guy. But, you know, in this drama, he's a bad guy. And you're a bad guy, too. But pretend like we're the good guys and we go after him. And they're like, I can do that. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm watching you. Ruining lives is my game. Don't talk about like you can do it better than me. And they're like, go get him. And then they trip and fall.
And then they're like, Master, may I have a bug?
And they're like, I don't know, Renfield. You've had many today. And still, Josh Turner's on the tube of you saying horrible things about us.
They're getting gritty with the bugs, Renfield.
We're almost out of cockroaches, and that's hard to do. They're everywhere. But cicadas are in season.
Yeah.
You get kind of like picky. You're like, ugh.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. Are you getting uppity with me, Renfield? No, master. It's okay. It's kind of crunchy, you know. It's a little bit of a different texture. You just slap them. Shut up, Renfield. You'll eat your cockroaches and cicadas and whatever I give you, and you'll like it. Bowl of gnats rolled up into a ball.
You go down to Texas, they have plenty of mosquitoes for you. I hear they make patty cakes out of them.
They're full of blood. So when you stop and you look at these people, you know, it's like they make Renfield look. I feel sorry for Renfield. Renfield's like, I don't look that bad.
Yeah.
I got all my teeth. At least for now. You know, it's Scotty says, I only eat smoked salmon. I love salmon.
I got some smoked salmon at the house. I forgot to eat it.
Salmon.
Now I'm hungry.
Isn't it Tony?
Thanks a lot, Scotty. Huh?
Tony doesn't like salmon.
Yeah.
He says he won't eat it. I'm like, why?
That's weird.
But you'll eat bamboo shoots and
Tony doesn't like salmon, and Scorpion doesn't like guacamole. It's off the wall.
They'll eat
Weird.
bamboo shoots and pig guts and whatever else. But you know,
Tony doesn't even know half
Fish
of what
eyes.
he eats. He just eats it.
yeah, he goes by his mother's.
Yeah.
And he comes home with something.
He'll bring home stuff that's like unrecognizable.
I don't even know what it is.
I've even asked him like, hey Tony, that actually doesn't look good, but it actually smells good. What is it? I don't know.
I don't even know. I just eat it.
My mom just made it for me.
I just eat it.
Yeah.
He doesn't question. You'll be watching him eat, and you're like, "Is that an eye? Is that an eyeball? What is that?" Yeah. There's fish eyes in this. You get used to it. You're like, "Wow." Sad. He's like a skinny Eeyore.
Yeah.
He just goes along with it, you know. He's like, "Eat that! I'll kill you."
Is that a monkey's skull floating around in that soup? What is that?
Monkey skull soup.
It's a delicacy, dude.
Charles Center says he's recovering from a spider bite. Bit me in my sleep, apparently. That happens quite a bit.
Oh, man.
There again, it depends on where they bite you.
Yeah, I killed one above my bed the other day.
Really? What kind?
It was just like a black spot. It wasn't a black widow. Widow. It was like one of those small ones. It looked like a brown recluse, but it wasn't brown. It's black. It's nasty looking.
Well, you got to be careful because, believe it or not, some brown recluses are actually dark like that, and some black widows are actually. Listen to this, folks. Some black widows are actually brown. I'm not joking. I'm being serious. So you got to be real careful. There's some certain stereotypes people think that these bugs fit into. They don't. I hate when people show this little chart of how the snake's head's supposed to look, whether you should have killed it or not. And they're like, the snake's head is like
I'm
this.
not taking the time to inspect the snake's head.
Exactly. Then it's a good one. If it's like this, then it's bad. Yeah. And then they're going like, what? Oh, it's striking at me. Okay. Yeah. Oh, you know what? It's time to go. Yeah.
Oh, Red the Black was your old friend Jack? Oh, well, Jack's dead now. I'm sorry. My bad. I didn't have the time to identify your old friend Jack, Red the Black. Sorry. He's gone.
And you're like, I didn't have time to, so I just shot. Sorry, whatever. I had a friend that used to, he made a blowgun. Mm-hmm. There was a friend of mine, me and my friend Keith, when we were growing up, we had a lot of weird friends that lived out in the middle of the sticks. One of them was this guy named Billy. We didn't hang out with him very much because his parents were real, strict. So they were like, now one thing people don't realize, he was a Quaker. Mm-hmm. Like his family was,
really?
They were descended from Quakers, yeah. And originally, I think they're from like Pennsylvania or something like that. And so he was the only Quaker that I knew growing up. And I knew very little about the Quaker religion. I do now.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're a Quaker. And it's, as kids, we went to church.
Mm-hmm.
We went to a non-denominational church. I think Keith was Methodist. And so I was like, yeah, we went to different churches, but his family were Quakers. And he's like, we don't go to church. And I'm like, how does that work? If you're a religious, like if you're a type of Christianity, you don't go to church. They don't. And they actually don't even really pray. It's really weird.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, just you can look it up. I don't have time to sit here and explain the ins and outs of the Quaker religion. There's I think there's less than 100,000 of them in the entire country.
No.
And they were persecuted in England. That's why they came here. The reason they were persecuted was because they didn't go to a church and they didn't believe in all the stuff that the basic whatever believe in. They didn't believe that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really weird. They have their own beliefs, whatever, but they don't really believe in organized religion per se. And so people don't really understand, and they tend to not like what they don't understand. If they don't understand and you have a different belief, then people tend to go off the rails with it. We talked about that last night at the end of the show. So anyway, we're waiting for the chat to fill up a little bit here. One of the things I wanted to talk about too, we're thinking about moving some stuff around. We don't know that we're going to continue with Saturdays. Saturday was interesting last night. We had a guy come on last night. His name was Mike, and he was a guest on the show, and he talked about his reptilian encounter. He had a couple of them. And I had done some research on some different cases that we had gotten. So a person reached out to me last night with a very compelling story. And she claims, this is pretty serious. But this happened in Georgia. But she claims that there was a reptilian family. Now, my colleague and dear friend David Weatherly has written about them. They were called the Snakeheads. Mm-hmm. And so I sent her that screenshot from his book, and I just said, check this out, look at, and so she sent me a message back saying, yeah, it was very much like that, that these beings, they were, so I typed up a thing about it and I sent it to her and I said, if she was interested in coming on, and she says she might be, but the problem is her parents still live down the road from that house. And get this, she says that she doesn't believe they're gone, that they live underground, and the house is just like for looks. Like if you go in and you look in the window, yeah, it's really weird. So her cousin, apparently, when he came back from Afghanistan, he went missing years ago, and she thinks that they did it.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, so I don't know. I don't know if she's, I got to flesh it out, but it, and what Mike said on the show last night was pretty, and this is something, people have asked me about certain encounters, and I can go back and ask people to come on and tell them themselves if it'll make you feel better. I know somebody had said something on Blondes and Booze, like, I don't want to hear secondhand accounts. I want to hear the people tell their story, whatever. So I said, okay, so I got Mike, just tell it. Mm-hmm. It's a story that I told, tell it. But not everybody wants to do that. And Mike admitted to us, and you know this, that he was a little apprehensive.
Oh, yeah.
He was afraid. Because you don't know what the repercussions are. You don't know how deeply embedded these people are, whatever. I don't fear it. For me personally, I don't, I've been, I don't know. I've been dealing with this, with bull crap my whole life. It's like stand in line. I used to deal with real bad people, bad threats, and stuff like that. So I don't really care, but I don't want to have my witnesses have anxiety and feel like something could happen to them. So if you don't feel like you can tell it, and anonymity's our thing, we can just you don't have to give your name even. And some people feel like they have to give me their information and then I'm supposed to keep it a secret. I said, you don't even have to do that. Because I don't get up here and say, well, what Mike is about to tell you is 100% true, because I can't tell you that.
Yeah.
I'm not Mike.
There's no such thing as 100%.
I was not there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people do that all the time. They'll advertise on their show true scary encounters, whatever, and some of them sound like they're all generated by AI or something. And you're like, yeah, true to what? But I digress. But it is whatever. I just want people to understand, like, when you give me your story, you're not obligated to give me your first name. Now, if you say, hey, you can use my name, that's fine. I'll use your first name. If that's okay, that's fine. And then one day, if you want to come on, because it might be confusing, some people have done, actually most people have told their stories and they've come on and retold them. And then that's fine if that's, but people might be confused. They'll be like, I remember this story, but it was a different person. Well, that's because we use a different name, to protect the witnesses. And I know some of the people that I told the stories way back on DER, I've seen them around, telling their encounters or whatever. I'd like to think I did a good job of retelling their stories as accurate as possible. But sometimes, there's a couple of them that I heard some details, and I'm going like, I'm not talking anything, but you didn't tell me that. That's so. I mean, I can't get it right if you don't give me the whole story. Like there was something else that happened. And I'm not saying these people are lying, but I'm saying like something else that they remembered, because that does happen too. Somebody was saying, and they sent me a snarky message on Messenger or through Instagram. And they were like, well, I heard that person retell their counter. It sounded different from what you said. And I went back and I will give me the link, and I listened and I was like, now I'm not saying that person is lying, but there is a thing that happens where when you go through a trauma, and I'm going to say this to the people here, when you have a trauma that affects you, you might have a version of it in your head that you carry with you for years, and then all of a sudden one day you're driving or you're brushing your teeth or you're in the shower or you're on the toilet, I don't know what, but then you remember other details. That's not me personally. I mean, I've had a few things happen that weren't horrific, but there were some things that came up from when I was a child. When I was in like my 30s, and I was like, whoa, I remember that. That's weird. Now, whether that's and then there again, that's weird because I've pondered this big time, and I thought, what if it's the Mandela effect? Like happening. Yeah. What if you're sitting there and you're going like, whoa, and then the timeline shifts or changes and the details of your encounter have now changed and your memory is caught up to it. I mean, is that possible? I mean,
anything's possible. I know that I used to have these weird moments as a kid, and when I stopped being a kid, they stopped. But like I would just be playing, being a kid, doing what kids do, and then in the middle of that, I would like stop. I would like completely stop, and like I would look down like at my shirt, and I would look down at my arms and at my little hands, and like I would kind of like freeze up, and I would be amazed like that I'm looking at myself. I was like, whoa.
You're kind of pondering who you are.
Is it? I can't believe that I'm me. Is this? What is this? Is this who am I? And then it would fade out of my mind like slowly, and then I would go back to just being a kid. But it would keep happening, like it happened all the time to me. It's weird.
Yeah, I did that too. As a kid, I did that too. I bet a lot of people in the audience probably did that. So I don't know.
It was like I was looking through the eyes of someone else.
You look at your little hands, and you're like, wow. So, the chat is, let's see, it's at 34. It's not even 300 right now. I guess people are really just don't want to be here tonight. I guess they don't like me anymore. And once everybody leaves, and I guess that's it. Close up. You just close up and go back to your life. Nobody loves you anymore.
Playing with house money anyway.
Yeah, exactly. It's like whatever. Somebody messaged me that the other day too. They were like, something snarky along the lines of like, and this isn't a bad person. This is somebody that's not that but they said, what are you going to do when you eventually have a chat and there's nobody in it? I said, I leave.
Yeah.
I'm like, House money, baby. Who cares? It was fun while it lasted. Oh, this is not a sucker for fun. This is a Manuka honey for my throat. Did you?
I think it's locked.
Well, okay. I don't need somebody coming and knocking.
I think you should smack very loudly into the microphone and just be really annoying with it. And then every time someone comments on it, just get louder and louder, and do it more frequently.
You mean cringe?
And make it gross even. Do like a cringe ASMR.
Why would I do that? What's the purpose of this?
The question is not why, it's why not.
Yeah,
See?
I don't trust your judgment on this one. So my name is Josh Turner. I'm approximately 6'3", 1/2 inches tall. And I'm about 365, 370 pounds. Solid muscle and fat. If you're interested in a good time, ladies, well, you might want to check out my profile and swipe right. Blessings.
Oh,
You go to the profile picture.
you take like one of the most like ugliest profile. Patrick. Well, now that's Bubba teeth.
Got to give something for the haters. Got to give them something to hate about. You know, you look on there and it's Bucky, you know.
Yeah.
Welcome to Bucky's. Come and take a dump in our delicious toilets. These are Bucky's mints, by the way. Bucky's. You might not have Bucky's where you're from. And if you don't, well, you're probably the better for it. Although I do like Bucky's. I always end up spending money on crap I don't need in there, like
I
pudding.
love Bucky's.
You go in there and you buy, I don't need this. Why am I buying this?
Oh yeah, you're buying it.
The key lime pie pudding.
You're buying it just because you're not going to get it anywhere else.
And then you buy the cone with the nuts in them. What are they?
Dude, I buy those every time.
Cinnamon nuts, and then you're eating the crap out of them, and then you're just like, oh, these are hurting my teeth, and I know it's bad for me, and you just keep eating them. Mm-hmm. And they tell you they're delicious nuts. It's nutritious. No, they're not nutritious. Bucky doesn't say that, but it's in my mind, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, you should get these. A lot of them. And then you should buy the pudding, too. And then you should eat that, and then you should complain for 2 weeks why your pants don't fit. And then you got to tell your wife, you're like, what's wrong with me? And she's like, well, you've gained a few pounds, honey. I'm like, no, I haven't. No, I haven't. My pants are shrinking.
It's just water weight.
It's a dryer. Dryer's evil. It's messing up my clothes. It's messed up all my clothes. All my clothes are smaller because of that dryer. I'll tell you what I got the other day. I pulled out a shirt that looked like it fit a Barbie. Yeah, I don't believe that. I said, you don't believe anything that happens to me.
Dude, I'll never forget you, like, for laughs, just squeezing yourself into one of my shirts. That was the funniest thing ever.
Oh, yeah, running around the house.
Yeah.
And Nellie was trying to take pictures of it.
Yeah.
So you remember those people at the Sam's when I put on that extra large?
Yeah.
And it looked like somebody. It was like Bodan.
Yeah.
Somebody just stuffed
like a
Bodan
sausage.
into like, and it was horrible. And the lady goes, "You look good." They were like from somewhere, I don't know where. And the guy was like, he wanted to say something so bad, and I was like, "What do you think? You think this fits me? You think so?" And they were just like, "Yeah, it looked good." I was like, "Man, y'all are liars. Quit lying." Trinidad. That's where they were from. They were from Trinidad, yeah. And we started talking to them, and they were like, and the guy goes, "Oh, thank goodness, I thought you were being serious." They're like just one of those unaware people. You don't know. I look good. I look totally good, man. You remember when y'all were kids? Mm-hmm. Okay, let me tell you a funny story. We used to go swimming all the time.
Yeah.
And him and his brothers, they would come and stay in the summertime. And then Tony would come, and Zane was there, and we had, who else? We had Seth, and we had Caleb, and everybody was there. and my house was like the summertime hangout or something. And then y'all would go to the pool. So we had like 8 or 9 of these kids at my house, and I was like telling Scorpion, I was like, we were off work that because we worked all the time.
Yeah.
And then I would have to go and check on y'all. And so y'all were like in your teens though. Y'all weren't like little kids or anything.
Yeah.
But y'all were teenagers, and your mom had called, and she, it's my sister, and she's like, "Where are the kids at?" And she didn't hear y'all, and I said, "Well, they're at the pool," and she's like, "By themselves?" I'm like, "Well, Anthony's like, at that time you were like 15 or something." I said, "He's 15," and she's like, "Yeah, but the boys are." I said, "Yeah, and Anthony's not the most responsible." I said, "Yeah, you're right. Let me go check on him." So I decided to, go out there, and I was overweight at that time because I was working you're not still, but I'm chubby, but back then I was fat. And I let myself get, fat from working all the time, literally just always being on post and not eating right and just not taking time to exercise like I should have and just eating unhealthy and eating on the go. And so my diet was 50% pizza or whatever, And so I went out to the pool and they were all out there swimming. There was a bunch of y'all and y'all were playing like with the football or whatever. And there was a bunch of people around. And so I did this, where I wore this shirt, a little small shirt. And it was like, and of course, I'm like a 6X or 5X to be comfortable, whatever.
Yeah.
So I put on like one of Dee's shirts, who at that time I think was a 2X. And so I had this belly just hanging out the bottom of it. And I walked out there and I'm like, "Hey, kids." And I had little floaties on my arms and I jump in the pool and there's like this huge wave that comes up, And then, I'm out there and I take off my shirt and I had like this, what do you call it? Like a halter top.
Yeah.
Because it was but it wasn't. It was a tank top, and it was one of your shirts.
Yeah.
But it was so tight on me, it looked like a halter top. And I was all like, "Hey guys, call me Susan." And everybody was just like, "Dude, what the hell, man?" And they were like, "Uncle Wolf, why are you acting all crazy?" And everybody was looking at me, and there were these people that were just staring at us, man.
You got no shame in public.
I had no shame. I did not care. Did not care. Whatever. I don't care. Whatever. And so, yeah, it was gross. It was really gross. But everybody just laughed about it later on because they were just like, "Look at this guy. They don't, he doesn't care." And so I put on this pair of swim trunks too that had not fit me in years. And I found them in the back of the closet. So I put them on and I walked out there and I had goggles on and I just looked horrible. And I had like flippers. I mean, I was a mess. But everybody was just like, "What the hell is wrong with this guy?" Is it hot in here? I'm burning up in here. Just the image of that in my head's making me hot. Oh, man. It is hot here, man. I'm like about to start sweating up in here. So we got 324 in here now. So let's get going here. So, pick a city. Which one you want to hear first? The story that I was going to tell from the woman from Birmingham. That one was a. So what happened with her? She worked at a department store, and her boyfriend at the time worked at a convenience store, and she got off work, or a clothing store, whatever. She got off work and she went to go pick him up every night, and she would get off at 10, he would get off at 11, so she would just sit there and do whatever. And she found PRT. And glad to say she's still a listener. She did say at one point they had to move and there were some interruptions in her service of listening to us. And I chastised her and told her don't let it happen again. So Marissa went to her boyfriend's job, and this isn't I don't think this is a real long encounter, but it is very interesting. She said that where her boyfriend worked at that time, and this was years ago, but she said that there was like this privacy fence in the back behind where the trash can was, and they had someone that was coming and getting into their trash. And she said that the people that owned the gas station were too cheap to get cameras that actually recorded. Mm-hmm. So they would they could see the guy inside the store So one of the workers that worked there, he quit because of what he saw. And so and I asked her this too. I said, could this have been something that influenced your mind? And I wasn't trying to, oh, you're a liar. I'm not. When I do that, you got to understand something. I'm just trying to make sure that the story is as fleshed out as possible. And one of the things she said, I thought about that. She's like, but my eyes weren't lying. I know what I saw. And what she saw was pretty messed up. Now, she did give me, just so y'all know, there was another story attached to this one that happened in Mobile because her cousin lived there. So don't forget we have that one, and there's another one from Montgomery. So it's kind of an Alabama thing here. But this story was intriguing because I looked up in the files, whatever, and I talked to a friend of ours who is with another research organization, and they actually they have files on this particular type of subject. Now, what they do, they study Bigfoot, but they do get stories like this, and so they do one of two things. They either classify it as an unknown, just completely unknown, and they just kind of throw it out, or they say that it is a type of Bigfoot. So you have Bigfoot that supposedly look like this, which I don't believe. Mm-hmm. I don't believe this. I don't believe this isn't a Bigfoot. But so just keep that in mind, right? So I said, hey, do you have anything on this? And he kind of gives me the backdoor channel on that. And y'all probably can figure. I mean, he's been on the show, but I mean, so he told me. He says, he says I can give you what I have on that. And I found two others in that state that were about 100 miles. One of them was, the furthest one was 90 miles. The other one was about 60. Which if you were a cryptid, if you were some sort of, or as Barton would call it, an inhumanoid, that's nothing. I mean, you could, you would travel that. Hell, mountain lion could travel that in 2 days. I mean, it's nothing. They could, and wolves even more. They go even further. They could travel that day and a half. You got to wonder, well, at least 60 miles. I mean, but it's like this. I don't know that it's because of that area, but let's start with this. What she saw, okay? Like I said, there was a guy that quit at that convenience store because he saw something like that on the camera. Now, of course, he locked the doors. He didn't go outside, but she was sitting there and she goes, I was looking at my phone, and she's like, and I was getting ready. She's like, believe it or not, I was getting ready to turn on your show and listen to Paranormal Roundtable. Back then, we had the hour-long podcast episodes, a lot of them. And so she was like, I was going to get caught up. I was a little bit behind. And she's like, so I'm sitting there and I'm going to your show. And she goes, and I see movement. And she goes, and of course, she's like, admittedly, she said, I had been listening to some weird stuff. She was like listening to me, listening to DER, listening to a few other podcasts. Expanded Perspectives, one of the ones that I love to listen to too. Used to. I just don't have time to listen to anything now. But so I get it. Maybe there was something there. But she said that she saw something walking, like just kind of walking behind the privacy fence. And the privacy fence kind of went around, and then it wrapped itself around by where the trash cans were, and then there was another piece that stuck out. And she said that this thing just comes around, and it peeks around the corner, and she's like, what am I looking at? And she said in that area it was dark, that the lights weren't working real good. And she says, I'm sitting there staring at it, and she's like, what am I looking at here? And she said that when it came into view where there was a little bit of light, you could see this silhouette. It was a skinny. The height was one thing that she just said it was crazy tall, at least 7 foot, way taller than a man would. You could say it was a man in a costume. The other day I was talking to the Taylor Daily Press and the editor-in-chief, and he says, no, I got to ask this. It happened on Halloween, your encounter. Is there a chance? I said, nope. I knew exactly what he was going to say. I didn't even let him finish. I said, no, it was not a man in a costume. It was 7.5 feet tall. And I didn't go back later on and go, wow, 7.5 feet tall, that's really tall. And then change my mind and go, no, it wasn't that tall. No, it was that tall. It was huge. And 7.5 feet, people don't realize like how tall that is.
Yeah.
Like sometimes when people say, well, something's 8, 9 feet, I'm like, are you sure it was 8, 9 feet? Because did you get a chance to compare it to something or measure it? And, who knows? Maybe it's not. But this thing here, what struck me about this thing was she said it had this long, skinny tail, and it was a cat-like tail. And she's like, and when it turned, it looked like a cat. Like a skinny, black house cat, but standing on its hind legs and 7 foot tall. Very man-like. And I was like, okay. And so I asked her, I said, Marissa, I'm going to ask you this question. And she did the same thing I did to the editor of the paper. She goes, no, it was not a person in a costume. I said, okay, I have to ask that. It was nothing personal. But, is there a chance it could be? I was like, when it moved, did you see hands? She said that it had fingers like a person. And it was looking around, and she goes, and what really scared the S out of me was she goes, it turned and it looked, and it was kind of like judging before it was like it was about to get into the trash. She's like, it stopped and it saw me. And she said that it had this very human look about it, and it kind of lowered its head and like keyed in on me. Mm-hmm. And she said cats do that, how they kind of get down, And she's like, it stopped and was just staring at me. And she's like, I'm sitting there in a Toyota Corolla. I think that's, or a Toyota Celica, whatever, one of those vehicles. But she says she got down. She was like, I was trying to crouch down, and there's only so much room in the small Toyota. And she's like, and I'm kind of tall for a female, She's like, I'm 5'9", but she's like, I was trying to get down, And I said, and she's like, and then this thing kind of was crouching down, and then it got down and it put its paws, hands, paws, whatever, hand-like paws, I would say, down on the ground, and it looked like it was just watching me. And it's like, then it heard like a noise, and it turned and looked and was kind of paying attention to something, and then it turned back toward me. And at that point, I was like, so you were looking at a cat person, and before she'd even said, she said it was dark and whatever. I told her, I was like, it was black, wasn't it? She said yes, because for some reason we don't really get reports of orange or tabby people.
Yeah.
They're always black. It's like panther people or something, So I don't know what that was. Other than to say that we've gotten descriptions of things that fit that description. But what it did was pretty weird. She's like, it just sat there looking at me. And she's like, and I had my cell phone. And she's like, and so this was a long time ago. And cell phones, it was 2006. But she said, cell phones they're not very good back then. But she did have a camera. And she's like, I'm going to try and take a picture. And I lift my phone. And she goes, when it did, it flattened itself out. And it did this weird like spider crawl and went like around. Yeah, it went around the fence and was gone. And she's like, what the hell did I just see? And she says that her boyfriend waved and knocked on the glass and waved because he was closed up. He was trying to get finished. And she kind of waved at him. And then she was pointing and he was like, and so she said she had been trying to call him, and his phone, she said he was horrible about having his headphones in when he was cleaning.
Yeah.
Not listening to his phone. And she's like, answer your phone. And he's like, come here. And then he went to open the door, and he's like, hey. And she's like shaking her head no. So she rolled the window down, but the car she had did not have automatic windows. It was an old car.
No, you got to roll it.
So she had to reach over and roll the window, and she goes, answer your phone. And he goes, what? And she's like, and then she goes, go back inside, answer your phone. She rolled the window back up. So then he went back inside and was kind of like, whatever, She said he was a real stoner, but he's not. They're not together anymore. And she's since gotten married and had children. But this dude, he went back in, he answered the phone. And she's like, I just saw a cat-like person, thing, whatever, walk out of the darkness around by the trash can and then go flat and then crawl away like a spider. And so he was obviously in shock, and he told her, he says, oh, man, So after he was done, she's like, he came out and locked up the store and ran to the car. And she told him, You know, he got in the car and he told her, he goes, there was a guy that used to work for them. And I think he said his name was Amir or something like that. But she's like, he used to work for us and he quit because he saw this thing on camera. He was getting ready to take the trash out. And he saw this thing crawling around on camera. And so he called his boss and he says, hey, you know, there's this, he's Muslim, you know, but he's like, there's a jinn walking around the trash can. And his boss is like, oh, you know, I don't believe you, you know, whatever. So his boss comes up there. Now, there was no way to record it, but then he quit. So then for a few days, it was him and the boss, the manager, were working constantly. And he goes, I would come in and then he would leave. And then we were just doing everything because there was only two of us now. Because the other guy who was Amir's roommate, who he had gotten another job somewhere and he had quit. So there was only three, and they were shorthanded. And he goes, and it was me and him. This is what her boyfriend was saying. And then he said that he told her, he says, yeah, I had heard of this, but I didn't believe it. I thought maybe he just wanted to quit. And I thought, you know, and he said that him and this other guy would smoke pot sometimes. So he thought, you know, maybe he was smoking something really strong. He goes, and then she's like, this is her own words. She said, this little pothead turd. She called him her ex-boyfriend. She don't really have a lot of love for him. She goes, this little pothead turd tells me, I like the way she talks. She's very frank. You know, she kind of reminds me of Nelly, the way she just says things, you know. Don't beat around the bush. Just say what's going on. You know, and she's like, this little pothead turd says, oh, you know, I saw weird things on the camera before when you were out there, and I was kind of like maybe worried, but I just thought it was just the cameras. And she's like, what? He's like, yeah, you know, where you go over there to smoke your cigarette and when you get out of the car or whatever, I thought I saw something standing behind you, but I just figured it was nothing. And she's like, so this thing could have been behind me at one point and you just thought it was nothing because you're on some dank ass garbage? Hello? At this point, I did not know that they were not, at this point in the conversation, folks, I didn't know if they were still together or not. And I said, Marissa, I'm not going to tell you how to do whatever, but I mean, I hope he's changed by now. She's like, oh, I don't know. She's like, we're not together no more. He moved to Phoenix. I'm like, oh, good, because he sounds like a real winner. I mean, if I saw Nelly buy a car, you know, and then there was a shadow that just appeared. But I'm going to be like, hey, what's going on here? Yeah. You're going to be some hands thrown with the shadow, whatever that is. But at the very least, I'm going to be like, hey, you know, there's something back. Get in the car, you know, whatever. He's just like, oh, you know, I don't know, you know, like, what the hell's wrong with this guy? He slapped the crap out of that dude, man. And you know, it's like, I don't even know, I mean, this guy. But the way she described him was like, we've had people work for us, like,
oh, yeah.
You know, and at the club, too. And you're just like, huh. You know, you tell these people when I was working at the bar, I'd be like, take the trash out, let's do this, whatever. You're going to go upstairs, and the guy's sitting there talking to a girl. And you go up there, and you're like, hey, and I'll say his name, one guy named Trent. Yeah, you were a terrible employee, awful, in fact. You tell him, and then the trash is still not done. Well, you know Frazier in Jamaica. And Frazier one day...
he doesn't play around.
He doesn't play around. He just went up there and shoved him out of the way. He was like, get out of the way. And he's like, get his number, do whatever, and get out of our bar. He told the girl. She's like, Rude. He goes, you want to see Rude? And I'm like, okay. All right. Let's just get the trash taken out. And then I told him, I said, you, tired of this, you know. And then you talk to him the next week about the conversation you had with him the week before, and he's like, oh yeah, did we talk about that? I'm like, yeah, we did. And you no longer have a job. And I have to fire a lot of people, but he was one of them. And then when you tell somebody to do something and then an hour later it's still not done, that's the most frustrating.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know. There's people like that, but I couldn't imagine dating somebody like that. I've never dated someone that
that's not dating, that's babysitting.
And it tends to be a guy thing, too.
Yeah.
It's like dudes, you know. I don't really see girls doing that.
That slacker attitude is like more of a guy thing.
Yeah. ridiculous, man. And I hate to say it, but a lot of them were babied by their mothers.
Yeah.
Or they were latchkey kids. Oh. But, yeah, so if you have any questions or thoughts before I move on to the next bit here, put them in capital letters. She said she never had another encounter with that, but she had a friend and she went and stayed at her house in Mobile. And it was after a really bad storm. Well, it wasn't a friend, it was her cousin. And she said it was, now get that, this is freaky. This is a freaky aspect to this story. But before we go on to this aspect, if anybody has any other questions, put them in capitals. Oh, we are doing a giveaway tonight, and we're mailing off tomorrow. We have all the stuff ready to go, right?
Yep.
Okay.
It's all set.
So we're going to pick 3 people tonight. Become a member if you haven't already. I'm sorry I got to eat this. I'm not trying to be rude, folks, or be, what do you call it, impolite or unprofessional, but my throat. I screamed and yelled yesterday. And Anthony knows I had a good reason to. I wasn't playing around yesterday. I had to scream and yell at somebody. And man, oh man. I'm like, Nellie, I told you one of my eggs sunny side up.
This is over easy.
Oh, your back is okay. Yeah, well, my lower back hurts a little bit, so you know what? We're even.
Well, I have a mild headache, so let's
Well, let's face
Come
it,
on
though.
now.
I mean, us guys, a mild cold might as well be the Black Plague. I mean, we're like, I'm dying. And she's like, the doctor literally said you have a mild sinus infection. Doctors are wrong most of the time. You look up, she's walked out of the room. What the hell? I just Bugs Bunny died in front of you and you just left to go, like, get something to drink? Are you crazy? So anyway, somebody had a question here. Let's see what we got here. Oh yeah, I hear that. Bubba says, I won't work fast food anymore because at Mods, I was on fries, burgers, and making sandwiches, and the other guys would be at the dumpster smoking blunts, and everybody's job plus my, yeah, that's what they do.
Yep.
And the manager don't do nothing. They just ride the clock. It says here, it's TN Ridge Runner 2. Is that Tennessee Ridge Runner? I don't know. Josh, could the cat thing be a southern version of Dogman? I don't think so. I don't think so, and I'll tell you why. Because it looked like a cat. Simple as that. Not being snarky there, Ridge Runner. You know you're one of us. I just got to tell you, man. I don't think so. There is a southern version of Dogman, and that's not it.
I do think that, like with this story in particular, but because of the way it flattened itself out and did that spider crawl, that, like, you know how like natural animals will have a like we'll have like a common ancestor, you know, and then different species will kind of branch off from that common ancestor, and so you'll have like different animals, but they have similar traits, that they look similar. I mean, it could be that same way with these cryptids. I mean, I'm not saying that they're natural animals. Like, I think that there's more, there's a spiritual aspect to them as well. But, you know, as in the flesh, as in the spirit, if there are similarities here, then whatever these things are, maybe they have a common ancestor from which they all spring. So like maybe the Bigfoot, the Dogman, whatever this cat thing was, the pale crawler / rake, whatever, like all these weird things. Like we've gotten encounters of people seeing them like do the same thing. They flatten out and they do this like this low crawl, spider crawl, like this weird thing. I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence that they all have the ability to do that. And it's got to stem from some common ancestor. Maybe they all come from some like from the same place, like a long time ago, thousands, I don't know, millions of years ago, who knows? But they're different creatures, but I don't think that they're completely unrelated, is my point.
Thousands of years ago into the future.
Yeah.
So, well, I think it's, here's what I'm going to tell you, though. She had some cousins that lived in Mobile, and she was staying there, and it was in the summertime, and it was after her and her boyfriend, I'm not going to say his name, I could, but we'll just call him Jay. Her and Jay separated, and so he kind of, well, according to her, he kind of became stalkerish. Probably because he needed somebody to babysit his ass, so he needed that. So he becomes
that was his meal ticket.
Yeah, so she goes down to Mobile to stay with her cousin, and she said that their house was a double wide trailer, but she goes, I swear it was haunted. She goes, it was a nice big house. Like, they didn't live in a trailer park. They lived in a pretty, like, it was a little community where they had, And she said that the house was well kept, and they had a nice little yard, and there was like, a little garden in the back, and it was very peaceful. There was a swing. She'd always sit in the back. And she said one day she was in the very back of the yard, and the dogs were going crazy. They had 2 golden retrievers. And she said, she goes, I pretty much was living there. She's like, I was just kind of staying there. And she's like, I go to the back to see what they're doing, and I'm on the phone with my friend, and she's like, and I told her, hold on, there's something back here. She goes, and I hear this hissing, growling sound, and there's this dark spot in the back of the woods. And she said she's looking, and she can't tell what it is, and she gets the dogs, there's a chain link fence. Mm-hmm. She gets the dogs away from the fence, and then she hears like crashing through the brush. She was like, whoa. And like she said, the house was haunted. She said that she would see like weird things, and I was like, well, define weird, like, what do you mean you see weird things? And she said, well, I've seen like shadow things with red eyes. She's like, but what I see is not in the house. It's usually on the outside of the house. And it was always there's like a extra bedroom that they use just for storage and stuff like that. She's like, but it wasn't just like random junk everywhere. There was a little desk in there with a computer, and she would go in there sometimes and do some stuff. And this was, I think she said about 2 years after what she had seen, right? I think that's what she said. And she said that she went in there one day to get on the computer, and she hears like something bump up against the house, and then she hears like a tap on the glass, like just a quick ping. And she's like, and she looks, and it's dark, but it wasn't that late. She said it was like 8, 9 o'clock at night. And so she gets up and she goes to the window, and she opens the window. Now this would terrify anybody. And there, standing before her, was just an amorphous shape, like a pillar type shape, but you could see 2 dots, like eyes, and they were red, and you could see the eyes like they blinked.
Oh no!
And she backed up, and she was like, "Whoa!" And she's like, I literally like fell backwards, and I yanked the mouse, and tore it up, and the port for the computer. She tore tore it up, messed it up, And she's like, I fell over, and then I grabbed the chair that I was on, and I look, and it was still there, looking at me. And she goes, I literally crawled out of that room. And she's like, and when I had screamed, the dogs came running in there, and they were like, what's going on, And then one of them ran toward the window and began barking at this thing, and this thing turned and moved like this, like moved. And I said, it walked away. She's like, not really walked. And she said, she corrected me. And she's like, no, it didn't walk. It floated, kind of, So she told her cousin, and she said, look, I saw something in the window, and her cousin was like, did it look like a black shadow with red eyes? And she said, yeah. She goes, yeah, and she was like, oh my gosh. She's like, I don't know if I can So one day she's laying down in bed, broad daylight. She said it was like 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and she's like sitting there looking at a magazine. Yes, we used to have magazines back in them there days. Yeah, we had magazines, kids. Oh, it was crazy. We had to actually open and turn the pages and do this. It was awesome.
Way back yonder.
For you guys, it'd be horrible. Your arms are too weak to hold them up. You couldn't do it. It's just something you couldn't do. You had to look at your phone. Your phone had to be like,
how do I click this book?
Yeah. You're like Wally. But no, so they're sitting there. She's sitting there and she's looking at a magazine, and she's like, and I'm just flipping through the pages, and she goes, and I got headphones in, you know. And I hear a bang, bang, bang knock on the door, and she goes, and my cousin would do that, her and my aunt, whenever it was, you know, time to eat, or I'd help them make dinner, you know. She's like, not really. Best I could do is salad, you know. But she goes, but I'd help what I could, you know. And I was learning to cook, you know. And she said that there was a knock on the door, and she thought, oh, it must be lunchtime because it was the weekend. And she goes, okay. And she closes the magazine, and she sees right there in the doorway the spitting image of what she saw 2 years ago at the gas station. And that's when she said, she goes, I was sitting here looking at this thing, and it was what I saw. But this is miles away. This is like, you know, and she said, this is incredible. She's like, I'm sitting there looking at it, and I'm like, this, how did this thing find me? This cat person thing. But she said it was weird, like, it looked like all the hair all the way around this being was fuzzed out, like how when cats, their hair fuzzes out. Mm-hmm. And she said it looked like it kind of started vibrating. And she closed her eyes, and she said, I didn't know what to do. She goes, I was raised as Catholic, but I started praying, you know. And she's like, it was weird. My mother was Catholic. My dad was a Lutheran. She's like, so they, you know, but she's like, I was really nothing, you know. And she's like, I started praying, and then I just said, Jesus, help me, you know. And when she said that, this thing started to vibrate faster and went toward her, coming into the room, and then was gone, like, pew. So, you know, so she asked me the question, which everybody always does when you talk to them about these things. And they're like, well, what do you think it was? I mean, like, I don't know. You know, I can tell you that we've covered lots of cases of these phantom cats that look like they're part humanoid. And then we've covered some that were just absolute cat people. And, of course, we, you know, out near Nowak, Lawrence Cemetery. You know, we need to go out there and do some research because I wish I had something that could show heat signatures.
Yeah.
You know, but that takes, you know, cameras and stuff, you know, stuff like that, which we don't have right now. But there is something out there, I believe. I really do. I strongly believe that we could possibly find something out there pertaining to this subject. And I don't know. I mean, she was saying that when you know, see it once and you think it's like something that's literally a flesh and blood thing, but then you see it again. So this is what I told her, and this is what I refer to oftentimes when somebody will see something again. And I told her, I said, you entered in, this is exactly what I told her. This is my advice to anybody who's going through something like this. And so I said, I worked in a building that was haunted. It was called the Haunted Tower. Okay. And she's like, yes, I've heard the episodes. I go, okay. So I said, do you remember? I think it was the second part. I told her it was the second part. I apologize if it wasn't, but she said she remembers. So I think it was the second part, folks. And like I said, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And so when I was talking to her the other day, I said, do you remember the Haunted Tower? She goes, yes. She's like, later on, you know, she's like, I got to that point, you know, I said, I remember listening. And she said that she thought, oh my gosh. She said she messaged me again after listening to that, and I didn't see it. So I told her, I apologize. It may have gotten lost. I don't know. I definitely wasn't dodging you because I don't dodge people. But she said that it made sense because I told her what I saw looked like what I had seen when I was 15, but I knew in my heart that that was not it. Mm-hmm. There was a demonic influence. I'd say a demonic infestation in that place. Probably still is. And that thing knew what I had seen. It knew what I had been through, and so it manifested that to create fear. And it's kind of like the movie It.
Yeah.
You know, I was reminded of that, you know, movie, the original one where the kid sees the werewolf or whatever, because it just came on TV one day and I was there watching it with Nellie. And it was just on, and I hadn't seen it since I was a kid, and I thought about it and I was like, wow, it does that. Like it you know, but it is really what? A demon. That's what it is.
Yeah, because his form isn't even a clown. It just
Yeah,
takes
and it can take the form of whatever. So it is like a metaphysical thing that can become physical, but it's still kind of in that it's in that in-between state. And I don't know why that's so hard to understand. I mean, look at water. Water can be a gas. Mm-hmm. Water can be a liquid, and it can be a solid. So if water can do that, then why not something else, can change its shape? I mean, so she sees this thing and she's like, okay, this isn't whatever. And so she said she started to come to the conclusion, because other people, her little nephew, would see, something that looked kind of like this was years later, but she said her little nephew would see this demonic, for lack of a better term, a demonic clown. Mm-hmm. And she's like, my little brother was a juggalo. Kind of like, what's his name?
Joe.
Joe. A juggalo, in case you don't know, is somebody that they're big time fans of Insane Clown Posse. So they put on makeup and they can look kind of scary, with the way they make it. It's like black metal does the same thing.
Yeah.
But so she said that my little nephew was terrified of my brother. Because this is her other brother's kid. But she said my one brother came over one day. He just ran inside to grab something because they were headed to a concert, and he was dressed all like that, And she said that he just freaked out because her little brother was seeing something that looked like a clown. And that was in another house that they lived in. But she said that people were also seeing each other like doppelgangers. Mm. And she believes, and this is what I believe too after talking to her about it, that when she left that house in Mobile, that entity, or at least one of the entities, followed her. And it mimicked. Like at one point, it mimicked her stepdad, calling her name.
Oh, no.
And the stepdad had a restraining order because of her mother. Her mother, he put his hands on her, so she filed a restraining order. Yeah. So then he comes and just opens the door one day, and he's all, Marissa, and then says his name, and she's like, look, I done told you, you're not supposed to be here, and she walks out, and there's nobody there. But the door was open. The front door was open. So she ran outside and looked, and there was nobody. And she's like, I know what kind of truck he drives. It wasn't him. She's like, and she goes, and I was still on speaking terms with him. So I texted him. She's like, and I was like, were you here? And he goes, no, I'm at work. He's like, don't bother me. I'm at work, whatever. So a couple days later, she was down at this Dairy Queen or something, I think it was. And she ran into one of his coworkers, and she was like, did he leave work at 2 p.m. yesterday or whatever? And it was the next day. And he was like, no, he was with me the whole time. Like, she was like, oh, okay. She goes, I'm just checking. I just thought it was something weird. So, I told her, I said, chances are, she's like, and I said, did you ever dream about this thing or think about this thing? And she goes, for 2 years, I had kind of thought about it. She goes, but when I went down to Mobile, it wasn't in my mind. Like, I wasn't thinking about it. It never even came up. So she goes, so when I saw it that day in broad daylight in the afternoon, it made me think, what am I doing? What am I looking at? What is this? But I think that they have an insidious way of being able to read your thoughts in a way that, they can go into the recesses of your mind. Mm-hmm. And I think if you dream about something, they can enter into that too and be like, okay, now we know how to mess with this guy or gal. You're dealing with beings that have the upper hand unless you have Christ. I always tell people that. That sounds like a broken record, but it's the truth until you fall back on that.
Yeah, maybe they can tap into your subconscious, because, I mean, if these are fourth dimensional beings, and they can see things that we can't even conceive of possibly seeing, then maybe they have a way of actually visualizing what's in your mind. Mm-hmm.
And I think they know too when you're in Christ. Mm-hmm. So they kind of wait for an opening, and they can take a shot at you. I still stand by this. I think they're after energy.
Yeah.
I mean, they want energy. Like there's this whole theme that seems to be the church is always like, they want the eternal damnation of your soul because they're trying to fight a war to take you to go to hell with them. I mean, they're pretty clever beings, you know. You're not giving them credit for being, because they're evil as hell, believe me. But if you were fighting a war, right? Why would you put so much energy into just, you're doomed to go to hell, right? Why would you care who goes with you? Like, why would you put so much energy into people unless there was some sort of, you needed that for something? I don't know. So there has to be something that they need, access to us in a way where they can drain us, our energy. That's what you would need. I mean, it's not going to be, let's see who can all go and to torment with us. I mean, I don't really see, that doesn't make sense to me. And maybe it's not supposed to, I don't know. But I think that there's something to be said about why they want to mess with us. It's not really just so you will be, the doing bad thing, they want you to do bad, because that generates negative energy that they can feed on. Yeah. Because that's a readily source of, negative energy is like junk food. It's quick, easy. You can get it, And some people are addicted to junk food. I used to be. I was never a sweet eater, but I ate fast food. Yeah. And that was the thing. That was my Achilles heel. And so I had to learn to eat right, eat better, whatever. But I think that what they do, and I really believe this, I don't think they give a crap whether you go to heaven or hell. I don't think they give two shits about that. I think what they care about is taking your energy.
Feeding on you while you're here.
Feeding on you, yeah. And if you have Christ, they can't do that. And so that bothers them. That's the big problem. If you're a bad guy, now look, take a journey with me. Let's look at He-Man. Let's look at Skeletor or Megatron or any of these other cartoon baddies from the 80s that I remember. Cobra Commander, right? Mumra, whatever. Didn't get to watch them much, but when I was at other friends' houses, I did. But, these are the bad guys, right? They were always trying. Now, here was their thing. Yes, they spent an inordinately large amount of time trying to destroy the Autobots or G.I. Joe or He-Man, or whoever, the cat people. What were they called? Speaking of the cat people, Thundercats. Yeah. They're trying to destroy them by whatever any means necessary. But the reason they want to destroy them, there's a practical reason for it. It's not out of just pure jealousy and hate, whatever. They have a reason they want to get rid of them because they keep stopping them from achieving their aims. See, Megatron's aim was to get Energon, which is from the Earth, take the energy, to build a space and eventually use it, to take over and he wanted to harvest the resources of the Earth. And the Autobots were like showing up all the time and they would stop him. Now, Skeletor, he always had some sort of evil plan so he could take over Eternia and do all kinds of other ridiculous things. And He-Man would get in the way. So after a few times of being thwarted by the heroes and the heroines, they decide, we got to get rid of these people. So then they devise plots and schemes and plans to get rid of you because you're constantly in the way of them messing with you. They're messing with you because they're constantly thwarting your plans. So then, their whole goal becomes to get rid of you because you're constantly in the way. So that's really what it is. So I don't think they're going to invest all this time and energy into just messing with you unless they're getting something out of it. And so the reason that they really, they really hate Christ and they can't stand is because he has given them basically the boot. They can't latch on and attack and do what they want to do to those who are anointed, who are part of the fold. And so whenever they want to mess with somebody, they're like, Jesus is in the way. So yeah, they hate him. They did, and they really can't do anything about it. But they can try to deceive you into not accepting him or to throwing you off and creating false narratives that people will follow because then it gives them more access to more cattle to prey on because they look at us as cattle or talking monkeys, basically. And so, people ask me all the time. They're like, "Well, if you don't believe that, what's the end game?" Like, and when it says in the Bible that Satan is like a lion who seeking those he can devour, he is truly, that is what he is, or it is the leader, or whatever of one. That's one leader. But the shaitan as a whole do that. That's what they do. And so, if they catch you and you're not protected, they're going to eat you. I mean, seriously. Physically, mentally, spiritually, every way they can. And so, there's a lot of unstable stuff out there that's happening. Why you would go out into the ocean and swim around and not be able to see what's below you and around you. And people were like, well, that's why I don't go in the ocean. I was like, yeah, you do it every day. You just don't know it. Mm-hmm. You walk outside your house or even in your house, and there's stuff floating around all over the place. And if you could see it, it would drive you nuts. But I bet you this, you try to find a way to get protected real quick. And I just can't understand these people who don't try to keep protected. Because you're going to face this at some point. It's going to mess with you. Yeah. Something's going to attach itself to you. You're going to be like, oh, look at this. This thing is just here. It's a free meal. There's nothing stopping me. Josh Turner at prtpodcast.com. That is the coordinates to send me your stories. Send me your stories, your information, and we can talk, hopefully, or you can just email it, and I'll flesh it out, and I'll put it on the show. That's how it works. Patreon.com, PRT Podcast. If you want to subscribe to the Patreon, that's one of the best ways to help out the show and support the show. We have a $10, $20, $30, $40, $50 tier. Or you can give us a donation on... We haven't got any today, have we?
Super chats?
I don't think anybody's super chatted. Wow.
I thought there was at least, I don't know. No.
Not one. Dang, hour and a half in? Man, we really suck. We're horrible. Thanks. 470 people, and they're like, this guy blows. So you just show up to mock me? Is that what you're doing? Anyways, there you go. Duke, somebody gave me $1. Lisa, give me $1. I gave him $1.
I'd buy that for $1.
Why not $3.50? The dang Loch Ness Monster got $3.50. I didn't even get $3.50. Oh, dang Loch Ness Monster. You know what it said? $3.50. So, anyways, the bottom line, and if you want, put the PayPal link up there on there. I don't know, is it on there? If you want to donate, there's another way you can do it. You can do it through PayPal, whatever. I almost forgot to do that. I used to have to be reminded to do it. And you don't have to. If you can't donate, don't donate. We don't do this for that. But here's the thing.
Thank you, Julie and Debbie.
Yeah, thank you for that. Donations or whatever that you can give. That's great. But here's the thing. We do have a there it is, a link. You can donate to that if you want to. And I want to thank Rita Burnett. She just gave. Oh. I was going to thank you, Rita, because Rita gave on the PayPal. You don't have to do it again. Come on. But what's it called? Scorpion's usually the one that messages me and says, hey, don't forget to say donations are not expected, but appreciate whatever. But now we got Madeline and Sugar and Spilling Tea, and they always do it. Whatever. And don't forget, if you're a mod of the show, ask for what you want. Okay, we'll not give it to you, but you can ask all you want. Yeah. Like, hey, you're like, that sounds good. I will figure out a way for you to buy that. I'm kidding. I'm not gonna
you have a direct line to make a request, an exclusive line directly to us to ask for something, and we will tell you yes or no. That's just for you.
That's a heck of a deal. Only for today. For today only. Until next time, And don't forget, we're also doing a giveaway of a $5 off coupon for a brand new car. All right, folks. Who doesn't want a brand new Dodge Charger? Huh? Exactly. $5 off coupon for a brand new car. And you can take that $5 and go to any dealership and use it. That is an incredible deal. I can tell you that right. You got to say that part real low. We got a $5 coupon for a brand new car. Yeah. You're like, wow, what's giving away cars? No, I'm not. But I'm giving you a $5 off coupon. All right. If you go and you buy a car, first come, first serve. Only one given away. Exclusions apply. See details and blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. Yeah. The micro machines guy starts talking. but yeah, okay, so we'll do that for you. But here's the thing. Back to the story. What we were saying is, and the reason I had to start giving all those is because they were messaging me, telling me to put that on there. Here's what I'm going to tell you. If you were a person, and you were her, right, and you saw this thing, and your butthead boyfriend probably saw it too, and it was just like, oh, I don't know what that was. I don't know if he talks like that. He sounds like he would talk like that and smell bad. But
Yeah.
anyways, you know, she's like, we all do dumb stuff when we're young. You know, we do, and you end up with people who are not smart, not good. You know. I mean, I could say this. I've dated some smart women, and Nellie's the smartest one I've ever dated. She's a really intelligent person.
Yeah, she's sharp.
Very sharp. So, and you can't fool her either.
Yeah.
She's like to the point now to where she's like everything. She thinks I'm always trying to get over on something. Like I'm just like, hey, I'm gonna go out. I was like, well, why? You're gonna go to the fridge, aren't you? I'm like sitting there with the pudding behind my back. I'm like, no. You're so suspicious of everything. What do you have behind your back? And I'm like, nothing. Look at this hand. What do you see in my hand?
I was getting a pudding for you.
I say, okay. Oh, you're talking about the banana Funny thing, you know what? There was another spoon. There was 2 spoons, and what we were gonna do, I was gonna eat like just a bite. I was gonna have just a bite, and then you were gonna eat the rest of it with whatever cookie of your choice that I was gonna get for you right now. And she's like, I don't want a cookie. I don't want the banana pudding. I want you to put it back and not eat it,
Well,
fatty.
that's why it's a surprise. You're not supposed to know about it.
Yeah. Can't even give her a surprise. It's just, you know.
You don't appreciate anything I do for you.
That literally is kind of how it is, too. I feel like I go outside. She's like, where you going? Because I'm like, I'm not going to get something bad for myself. I was going to check the mail. Then you got to go check the mail. I'm like, check the freaking mail.
Like, I was going to mow the lawn.
Jeez.
And then you end up having to do it.
Well, that's how she got me to stop with the fast food and stuff. I'm like, I'm just going to go outside for a minute and run to Carl's Jr. No, we're not doing that. Okay.
Dean Neal says, us wives have that husband ESPN.
They already know what's going on.
Yeah.
She hears something rustling, and you're like, crap.
Yeah.
And usually she stays asleep, but sometimes she'll wake up, and then you're like, and you're quietly opening the bag. And when you're trying to be quiet, everything sounds like a mortar going off.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, and then she kind of moves a little bit.
Yeah.
And you're like, just quietly open this bag. And then I swear it sounds like it's screaming. It's like, oh! You're like, oh, God, shut up! Shut up!
In here! He's in here! Come on, hurry up!
Being opened! I'm a bag of cookies! Help me! You're like, geez, Louise. She wakes up. She's like, huh? What was that? What was it? Was that the door? I'm like, nobody's at the door. Everything's fine. I'm not opening cookies. Go back to bed. She knows I don't eat a lot of sweets. You know that.
Yeah.
But banana pudding and cookies.
Yeah.
Cookies, I have a problem. I don't have them in the house. Don't have them in the house. If you don't have them in the house, you won't eat them. Right? Because there's also a thing for me. I'm too busy. I'm not going to say lazy because I'm being dead serious honest. I'm too busy to go run to the store and grab them.
Yeah.
So I have them do it. I'm like,
I was
hey.
like, just sitting here. I just finished this bag of cookies while you were talking.
That's to keep them from me.
Yeah.
But that's you're doing me a favor because I will eat that. I'll just be sitting there like, and they make an infomercial. You know, you'd be like, have you ever had this happen to you? And I'm like, yeah. Just sitting there being a fat ass eating cookies, watching this wax video. What?
And then they start calling you out by name.
He's like, you there with the Mothman shirt and the weird pumpkin pie haircut. And you're like, what?
Surely he's not talking about this. No.
This can't be happening. You with your weird ass head, weird misshapen weird head, and you're like, what? Campbell's soup is good food, head ass. Yes, you. Would you ever use this wax on your car? And I'm like, no, I wouldn't, but I'm just going to keep eating these cookies. I don't know why he's talking to me. I'm not talking to you, fatty. I'm talking to everybody. Yeah, right. That skit got scary for a minute there. Getting nervous. But no, so you have this situation where you know your wife is going to be watching you, and she doesn't like it when I grab a shirt and go like, it's like, just get a shirt, okay? Just get one. And she's like, if you have to smell the shirt, it's not going to be good. And I don't do that anymore. I'd be like, I only wore it 3 times.
Yeah.
I can make this work. I'm just saying. She's like, you could just like, but I take a bath every day. I'm a very clean person. But she's like, yes, but even clothes, they will get tired of being worn. You have favorite clothes.
Yeah.
But after I got with her, that stopped. There's no more favorite clothes. But anyways, yeah, so give me what you think they're... So give me what you think is going on with this. Do you think that this thing followed her back to this other house that she moved in? When she moved back home with her mother, that's when this happened. And it was mimicking things. Mm-hmm. But it was like, but it never, here's the weird thing. It never mimicked the cat. Well, let's call it what it was, a cat man. It never mimicked that again, ever. That was it. It was like a one-time thing. So that's weird. Yeah, Lisa Marie says, I think it was an attachment. Yeah, attachment, but, the thing that bothers me is how they're able to, like, know of something that happened to you in your past.
Yeah. I mean, like, thoughts, I think that thoughts are physical, like, they're physical things. Like, I mean, like, we think that because we don't, like, we can't visualize someone else's thoughts coming off of their head, like they're not a physical thing, that they only exist in our minds. But I mean, like, the thought forms are actual real things that are put out into the physical world. I mean, it's just we can't perceive them. Now, maybe some people can. Like, there are some people who can legitimately read minds. They have that ability. But it's just like I said. I mean, if a spiritual being is is a fourth dimensional being, there's got to be some way that they can, like, literally see what is in our subconscious mind, or even in our conscious mind. But like, if thought forms are a physical thing in three dimensions, then they can be perceived in the fourth dimension as well. So, and these things are opportunistic. They're like sharks, or maybe ambush predators. Like, they don't. If they have the opportunity to attack someone who is vulnerable, then they're going to take it. I mean, that just like any other predator. And just because, like, you encounter something and it doesn't attack you, that doesn't mean that it's not capable of it or willing to do it. And in the same way that, like, people will swim with, like, sharks. Well, a shark is an ambush predator. If it sees you looking at it, it might not attack you, but that doesn't mean it's not going to. That doesn't mean it's not willing or able to. And it's the same thing in the spirit world. Like, the physical and the spiritual, they mirror each other. Like, they're different things, but in like in their nature, they're very similar. So I believe that. And so, like, with these strange encounters, whenever Wolf is telling them, I try to compare it to like how things work in our three-dimensional physical plane of reality, because and I think that we can learn a lot if we look at it through that scope, and we realize, as in the spirit as in the flesh, these two worlds are very similar, then they mirror one another, then we can begin to understand, like, how things might actually work on that higher dimensional plane of existence that we can't perceive.
Yeah. So a lot of people are giving their opinions on what they think this was. And let's move on to the next encounter. Now, there's 2 we can go to. There's 2 that we can go to. I'm literally trying to hire somebody right now. They keep messaging me, and I'm like messaging them back. Sorry, folks. I got to keep working. I can't stop because we got a lot to do. And thank you for everybody that donated. Who all did, so we can get their names on there. It's not like
Let's see. We got
it doesn't keep it like on StreamYard. Sugar Britches, thank you. It says you are amazing. So are you.
We got Jamie Brinson. She says, "It just got here. Love y'all." Slim Jimmy. Debbie Cawthra
Mike
says,
Armio.
"You're not horrible. Love your show." Julie S828, Duke the Legend. Rita Burnett and Sugar Britches.
Thank you for you guys that donated. Thank you. Appreciate that. Debbie Cawthra did too. Who else? There was somebody else. You can't. It won't show you.
Let's see. We got Mike Armio, Jamie Brinson, Slim Jimmy, Debbie Cawthra, Julie,
Okay.
Duke the Legend.
Just want to make sure we got everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you for those donations. We appreciate it. We really do. And like I said, you can donate to the PayPal, and we don't have to split it with YouTube, but whatever. Somebody says, "Do I have any stories from the South Dakota Badlands?" Yeah, actually, we just we just talked about somebody from South Dakota the other day on the show. I can't remember what it was. See, and that's here's the thing. Me and Anthony have talked about this at length too with Tony, and we've all gone over this. Whether we should try to, thank you, Shade, for that donation, but we're sitting here trying to figure out, the best way to file the stories. And this has been a conundrum of ours for a long time. Thank you, Duke the Legend. You're trying to, that color's the same as my shirt. You see it?
Yeah.
So, we thought about organizing them by state and then region of state. And then we've talked about, but then we've also talked about, so the best we've come up with is just to try to put Bigfoot encounters with Bigfoot encounters, and then Dogman encounters with Dogman encounters, ghosts, different types of ghosts, like these kind with. I found a file there the other day I didn't even know existed. I mean, like I didn't, not a file, but a set of stories. And it was under Shapeshifter, and I don't know who put it in there because it wasn't me, but it was, well, then again, who knows? It might have been, I don't remember it. But, sometimes I'm working, I'm half asleep, and I just, but it was Mimic. It was Mimics. It was all it was. It didn't say Mimic on there. It was doppelgangers. Mm-hmm. And so we already had a file for doppelganger hauntings, but some of these hauntings and some of these things that happen, you can't classify them as one thing because there's so many different things going on in one haunting. And it's something I've talked to the ladies at Blondes and Booze about, like how are you supposed to, you have a haunting and you have full-bodied apparition, but then you have shadow people, and then you have this mimicry going on with this doppelganger. You can't just put it in a file that says doppelganger. You'll have a story that's doppelganger, but so it's kind of hard to classify some of this stuff because there's a lot going on with one particular thing.
Yeah.
What I do see though are some of these organizations, one large Bigfoot organization in particular, is going to take anything where these things are spider crawling or doing anything weird, then they're not going to talk about it. They're going to toss it out. And I had someone in a group the other day, it made me laugh. And they were like, well, I've looked at their files and I haven't seen anything about a Bigfoot spider crawling on the ground doing this and all that. Again, you won't.
Yeah, that's the point.
That goes against their narrative. They have created a narrative, and it is Michigan versus Texas, go blue. I wanted it to be Michigan, Texas. That's what I want. I was rooting for those two to go. And then it ended up I wanted Alabama maybe, to play Texas again because I think Texas matches up well against them, but didn't happen. Can I get one of those?
Yeah.
So this other story we got, there's two of them, and these are different. They're not in the same vein as that, but we can get back to that subject eventually. But we have a couple different ones. We have a wraith. I say wraith, I don't know what it was, story, and this one was out of Montgomery, Alabama. And it was in an old house. And something came out of the mirror. And it looked, well, it was weird, right? It was weird. And so I looked these two ended up being, because when I found this one, because of the file on there, it was just said weird Alabama stories. And there are only 3 in there, which I know there's more than that from Alabama. Give me a break. Heck, I was just talking to Bettina about one the other day. So, I know there's more. It's not just like one, there's something weird happened in Alabama. Okay, no, there's a bunch of stories we've gotten out of there, but Mississippi's no different. All those southern states have a lot of creepy, weird stuff. Dogman, Bigfoot, ghosts, UFOs. But this one, this one is weird. And I'll say this one because let's say I like it because you got to remember too, let's keep it in perspective. This is something terrifying that happened to people. So saying I like this story, yeah, I like the story, yeah, but I wish it didn't have to happen to somebody because it really happened to somebody. At least that's what they say. They're telling us it did. But if you're sitting there and you're going over these files, and you kind of have to figure out, hey, where you're at, because ours is a mess. It's like all over the place. But if you saw how many stories we got, like people sending them in, whatever. And, I went from this story to the Alabama, because it was in Alabama. So I found this one in Montgomery, and so then I found one that was similar to this one because it was in another file, and it was about mirrors. So see, it's hard to kind of like gauge, So that's why I thought maybe we should put these stories in to change it up, Anthony, like into states.
Yeah.
Maybe we could file it into states and then regions of states, like, this part of Utah, southern Utah, northern Utah, maybe southern California, northern California. And Texas, it'd be East Texas, West Texas, South Texas, North Texas, and Central Texas, because they're all different. And so you would just have all these different, regions, maybe southern Alabama, northern Alabama. I don't know. But so I don't know exactly the best way to classify it. And I'm open. If anybody has any suggestions on how to classify these things to help us be able to find the stories easier, because you just take them and you go, okay, I got to throw them into a file. Or they'll just pile up into emails. And Anthony, like you said earlier in the show, I had so many emails. He said he'd never seen that before. Well,
yeah.
And somebody asked me one day, they were like, and this is a friend of mine, a friend of ours. And I think it might have been Chris, might have been Garitano or Josh or one of those guys. And they asked me how we got so many emails in there. And I was like, people started sending them. The first year of the show, we might have gotten, maybe 2 or 3 a week at most. Mm-hmm. But there were some really long, elaborate ones too. And then, the next year, you might get like a couple a day. And then the next year, it was like, half a dozen. And then it was like a dozen. And then there's these weird days, which this is weird. I noticed this is a pattern. And I noticed like there were like 3 Wednesdays every couple months where there was nothing. And it was on a Wednesday. Mm-hmm. Why is that? Like, why did hump day, like people just decide they don't want to give you a story? Like, that's a weird thing. Wow. That's a weird synchronicity, isn't it? Yeah. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm reading into it too much. No pun intended. So, here we go. 2 stories, very similar. One in Mississippi, one in Alabama. And this is not super unusual to have, 2 stories that are very similar. And in fact, I looked and I found a few other there was one in Pennsylvania that was weird, kind of like this one, but it involved a lot of other stuff. So that's for another time. We're in the South on this one, right? We're going to kind of stay in the South. This one, I'll start with the Tupelo one, which, and the lady that gave me this one, she's an African-American lady. She's very fun to talk to, very animated. And I'm going to put you on the spot here, Ida, but she was like, I can't believe I'm talking to you. I was like, well, I talk to a lot of people. It's not, it's not really that big a deal. She's, yeah, but it's just, this is crazy. And then she got her brother and her husband on the phone to talk to me. And they were like, is this really Josh Turner? I was like, yes, it's Josh Turner. So big fans. Shout out to Ida. You and your family, very nice people. But they each had something to tell. When they were kids growing up in Mississippi, they were very poor. They lived in the projects at Tupelo. And they lived, there was several brothers and sisters, and they had to, right on top of each other, they had to share bedroom, whatever, and whatever. But they lived hand to mouth, and their mother was a single mother, and she did their best to keep them out of trouble, but one of their brothers got in trouble, and he went to jail. And she thinks that when he got out, he, instead of, like, this is what they said, instead of him reforming, he just learned to be a better criminal, which happens. And so he started slinging some stuff, and he became, like, he got big. And he bought his mother a house. Well, when you go and you're able to just buy a $300,000 house, and they moved into another, they moved out of Tupelo, they moved out, into the country, but he bought a house. And it was an expensive house. And, it was crazy. What ended up happening, they think that something had attached itself to him, because when he got out of the joint, I say the joint, that's what we used to call it back in the day, he started having these nightmares, and he was talking about this, like, old, in the way he described it was like a man, but he looked like his face was all burned up. Now, it turns out the jail that he was at before he went to prison, because he did 4 years, the jail he was at, an inmate back in the 1920s actually did get burned up. Mm. He literally was killed by one of the jailers. Let someone go in there and kill this dude because that dude had done something to that guy's sister. So he says that it was like, he goes, my brother, this is her other brother, was describing their brother Otis. He said that he had an attachment. And what it was a man who, and he said he looked like Freddy Krueger to his brother. His brother's deceased now. He ended up going back to jail, and he died in jail. He had congestive heart failure, and they don't, let's face it, if you have a condition, you're sick in jail, you're done. Yeah. They don't care about you. You're just going to be, you're forgotten about. I mean, it's the oubliette. They just put you in there. It's a place of forgetting. You're done. And so he died. But he did care about his family. He wasn't greedy, like in the way that some people would just be like, yeah, I'm making all this money, see ya. Yeah. He took care of his mother and his aunt and uncle, and he provided for them. And he tried to legitimize, which was, at least that was admirable. I mean, he tried. And he opened up a business, and and his sister ran it for a while. And so it was a food place. But she said that, that there was some weird stuff, and that whenever he would come and he would check, just to check in and be in the office at the business, that when he would leave sometimes, at one point she went to the cooler, and she saw a shadow being there, just kind of standing there staring at her. She didn't see any eyes or anything, but she said, I could tell it was looking at me. She could see it. And she said that it was weird. The cooler got hot all of a sudden. So she would get these weird temperature fluctuations that were like hot, cold, whatever. And then one time when they were leaving this whatever, she says, we backed up and there was a man standing right behind my car. And this was years ago. And she said I had one of these old, back in those days, it was a nice car. It was an Oldsmobile. Yeah. She's like, and I had a nice one, and I backed up and I hit something. And she's like, my son was with me. And he was like, there's somebody, her son's name is Aubrey. And Aubrey's like, there's something back there, Mama. And she gets out and she's like, I was scared. I got out and she's like, I ain't going to lie. She's like, I grabbed the tire iron from the back. I was like, what is this? And she said that it was like something really tall. It was shaped like a man. And she said that she looked and there was nothing there, but she could feel it. And so she said that as time went on, they started to, they lived in this big house. It wasn't a house he built. It was a house he bought. And it was an old plantation house, but there wasn't a plantation anymore. And she said, I'm going to be honest, I think that the people that maybe lived there before didn't want us there. And she gave me some reasons why she thought that. And I just kind of laughed. I said, well, I don't know. I mean, it depends. Sometimes people are the way they are in death as they are in life. Now, the people are going to say, well, that's not true. Or you go to hell, heaven, whatever. And I'm not going to debate that right now. That's not what we're here for tonight. We're telling encounters. But she said that she started seeing this thing in the mirror that looked like a woman from the antebellum era, before the Civil War.
Yeah.
Like Gone with the Wind type stuff, and it is Mississippi. But she said that she would see it, but she would smile at her. She's like, the woman wasn't like looking at her angry. But she said, sometimes I would see this man just kind of like peeking around the corner looking in our bedroom. And she goes, there were like 2 master bedrooms, one on each side. They had this big staircase, and then one side went, and there was a wing there with 3 bedrooms, and then a wing to the other side, 3 bedrooms, 6 bedrooms, big house.
Yeah.
And she said that there was, 2 master bedrooms, and she had one of them. And her son lived across the hall from her. And she's like, she's got 4 kids, but he was her main son, I say main son, that's my words. But he was the one that helped her with the business. He stayed with her, did everything for her, She had what they called a sugar, like diabetes. And she said, man, and my son was a help. He always made sure I took my insulin. He got on to me, and just whatever, when I needed to be scolded for, whatever. He was a very good kid. He still is. And her other son ended up getting a scholarship and playing football. And, but she said that he went away, and then when he would come back, he was scared to sleep in that house.
Yeah.
Because something had reached up from under the bed and grabbed his leg.
Oh.
And so she was like, it was a terrifying place. And then she said that to make things worse, one day behind, there's a balcony on the back, and then there's like this wraparound porch, and the way she described it is very beautiful. But she said there was this spring in the back, and when you go to the back of the house, you could there was a balcony there. And one night, she said the adults, she goes, we were at bingo. We were in town playing bingo, and she's like, and the youngsters were just hanging out. And she goes, and they like to smoke that stinky crap, as she called it. I know what that is, the devil's lettuce. Yeah. But she said that my son, she was all of his vices, that's the one that she can't stand. And he cusses a lot. Well, I said, I have one of those. I cuss a lot, but I don't smoke. But she said they were out on the balcony, and she said that he swore up and down that they had not lit it up yet. So it couldn't have been what caused them to see this. But what they saw come walking out of the woods looked like a Sasquatch, like a Bigfoot creature. And what was even creepier, it looked up at them and it watched them. And they said it looked kind of like a Neanderthal type creature, like a cavemanish looking thing, but with a lot of hair. And then it got real thick in certain spots, almost like fur. And that's mine because I believe that's what they were describing. So she said that it came out of the woods and it stared at them, and then it ran toward the house. Oh. And it went underneath the balcony, and they were like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, so there's like 3 of them. She's like 3 kids there. She's like kids. One of them, the oldest one's 20. Yeah, that's a kid.
Stomach drop.
And they were like, did that thing just run into the house?
Can you imagine hearing those deep bass footsteps?
Yeah.
Like in your house, just thumping.
And so they're out on this balcony, and there's like 2 balconies, right? And so she said they're out on this balcony, and this happens, and it's him and his 2 cousins, and they're just like, something just ran up underneath the house. And she said, one of them's got a firearm. And he's like, I'll take care of this. And then they had their stupid friend. His name was, he was a Hispanic kid, but I forgot his name, Philip. And she said, how he used to call Tony's friend Dumb John.
Yeah. She
called him Stupid Philip. Mm-hmm. She goes, and they had a little Spanish friend. She called him Spanish. They had a little Spanish friend who was always with him. I call him Stupid Philip because he's always coming up with stupid things. They'd be like, We ran the car into the swamp. Well, stupid Philip, he was telling me that he saw something, so I swerved. Oh, we went to the gym and lost my backpack. Stupid Philip put it in without locking the. She's like, you stupid Philip's getting, you need to quit listening to this guy. That's what I told. I tell your son to quit listening to stupid Philip. Dumb Philip, whatever. But anyway, she said it was a kid they hung out with. And she's like, he was a Spanish-speaking kid, and she didn't know what he was, Mexican or El Salvadorian. I think that her brother said he was El Salvadorian. But anyway, he was hanging out with them. So he pulls out his gun and he runs downstairs to go try to confront this thing. Now, the door was unlocked. Now, get this. Imagine if you're these kids, oldest one being 20 and the rest are all in their teens, and they run downstairs. So there's two cousins and then her son and then stupid Philip. And Philip, if you're listening, I'm sorry, that's what they called you. I'm telling, I'd have called you that. I don't know.
Take it up with them, man.
Take it up with them and your friend, okay? They called you stupid Philip, not me. Shit, like he said dumbass. I didn't say dumbass. I didn't say dumbass Phil. I just said stupid Phil. That's what they called him. Stupid John was Tony's best friend in high school. I always called him Stupid John. But he panned out, though. He went to the Marines, didn't he? Mm-hmm. He went to the Marines, and then he did something with himself. So he's not Stupid John anymore. He got married and had kids, and now he's a little smarter, I guess. But, when you're young, you do goofy things, And so what ended up happening, they go downstairs, and the door is open. Like that back door, they had these two big doors of this antebellum house, and it was open. So their thought was this thing came running across the lawn, unbelievably in front of their eyes and ran into the house. And now one of them has his phone out and he's trying to catch it on camera. This was just like in 2017 or something like that. So they're running around trying to take videos of it. And these kids they're freaked out. They're screaming. And they had another cousin that was studying. She's in college and she was on the other side of the house. So she comes out and she's like, I'm trying to study. And it's her and her friend. And they're like, hey, something just came running through the woods, across the lawn, and it ran into the house. The door was wide open. And they were like, why was the door even locked? And she's a little bit more responsible, She sounds like she's the most responsible of the kids, And she was just like, well, why would you have the door open? Why would you, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then they hear this loud thud, which sounded like something falling and breaking. And so they had to this is a big house. They said it was like a 6,500 square foot house.
Dang.
Or I'm sorry, 6,500 square foot house. And so they had to literally go room to room, checking and making sure that, because like what they were, this is something's in the house.
That's a problem with a huge house.
Huge houses, right?
You never know if you're alone.
And then they had to go, there's like an attic, like the ceilings were high, but at one point, the house had been completely redone and remodeled. And part of the house actually had been cut away. Like they had literally taken part of the house that was messed up, and then they closed it off at that point, and then they whatever, however they did it. She said it was a bigger house at one point. But it was old. It was like, 200 years old. And she said you'd hear noises. She said sometimes you'd hear voices, you'd hear conversations. And she's like, and you'd be, everybody's asleep.
Yeah.
And she goes, I went room to room one time checking on the kids, and there was people talking. And you could hear like chatter, but everybody was asleep. She's like, and then you go down, and there was like a guest room downstairs next to the kitchen. Now, the way this house was made, like I said, part of it was removed, but she said that there was like a servant's area at one point, like a stairway, the back stairs, and then there was the main stairs. And she said that they had an area where there was like a normal kitchen for them, and then like a kitchen on the side where the servants would eat. You know what I mean? And or the slaves back when it was, before that. But she's like, this family that owned it before, they probably had servants all through the 20s and 30s. But she said that there was like another side where there was this huge dining room, and she hated, nobody wanted to go in there because it was super haunted. And she's like, if you were to just go into that room and you sit down, this is what she said, and that something would touch your shoulders. Like you would have hands on them. And she's like, so it was almost like a game. The kids would go, I dare you to go into the dining room and sit at the table.
Oh, no.
And so she said that it was a scary house. It was spooky, very spooky. And then they had to do some remodeling on it. And then
That always aggravates
whatever's there. And so then weird stuff started happening. And then they found a walled up room.
Oh, no.
Now get this, behind the wall.
This keeps getting worse.
Well, she said behind that wall, there was nothing in that room but a chair and a whip.
See what I mean? Keeps getting worse.
But it wasn't like she said it wasn't like a whip, like you would whip a slave, like back in the days, in the old days, whatever, the before the Civil War. She said it wasn't anything like that. It was like a riding crop. Like you would use for a horse, just to get it to go.
Yeah.
And she said, and it was just there on the chair, and then there was like a toy, what looked like a toy horse or something, and it was just closed up. And they didn't know why. And so they opened it up. And she said when they opened it up, like when they were doing the remodeling, the contractors came and they said, hey, we found something. You might want to take a look at this. And there was this room. And they were like, did you know there was this room here? And so she said no. But that wasn't the first time. When they first moved in, they found like a little, what looked like a small little room. Mm-hmm. And like somebody had played inside of it, like kids, and they had colored all in it, and it was just like a little nook, so there was all these weird little things. So this thing that looked like a Bigfoot, for all intents and purposes, ran into the house, and they didn't find anything. But then over the next week or two, she said, this is her words, it's like week, 2 weeks, whatever, something, she said that they were seeing what looked like a Bigfoot-type creature moving around the property. And she said that I would go outside sometimes, and they had a little gazebo in the back, and they had redone it, and it was nice. And she's like, and I'd sit out there, and she's like, and sometimes I would look up in the window, and I would see somebody. And whenever my brother would come to visit, because he lived in town, and she said that she would see this burned-up-looking man. And she thinks it was completely attached to him. It followed him from jail. And he had told her one day that he was having nightmares, and when he would stay in that house, they would get worse. And so one day, this was what really got my attention. There was something in the mirror, and she said it came out of the mirror, and my brother swears up and down it was me. And so when I talked to him briefly, but he saw something. I was in there and I was sleeping. I didn't live there. He's like, but I went there to visit with my kids, and it was the night before Thanksgiving. And he said that I saw Ida come out of the mirror. And I thought, what the heck? But her eyes were white.
Oh, no.
And so he goes, she kind of was walking around the room, and I could see her eyes glowing. He goes, and then this is what was really scary. She walked toward the door. He goes, and I'm sitting there staring at it. He goes, and I'm about to push my wife and say, hey, you need to see this. He goes, and when I moved, she stopped and kind of like, you could see the eyes. He goes, it's all dark, but you could see the outline of her.
Yeah.
When she was in the mirror, there was like a pallor to her. My words. He said like a glow. But it looked like her. When she comes out of the mirror and she walks toward the door, and then he says, what is that? And then he's like, I'm about to wake up my wife and get her to look at this, which thank goodness I didn't. And he said, because she scares easy. And he goes, I didn't know what else to do. He goes, but I was terrified. He goes, I'm a 38-year-old man at that point, and I'm scared to death. I'm sitting there shaking. He goes, and I'm a pretty big dude, And she turns and looks, and he's like, Ida? And he goes, it's not her. And he heard this like a hissing sound. And then she kind of like takes a couple steps toward the bed, like really quickly. And then he's like, ugh. And he realizes there's just this white-eyed, like weird, effeminate looking being, but it's not her. And so he was just like, what in the hell am I looking at? And then he said that it was like she just like went down into the ground. Like he goes, and so I just laid there. He goes, and then eventually I sat up and I looked over the bed, you know, and he goes, and I kind of half thought that something was going to grab me, but it didn't, thank goodness. And then he says, I get up off the bed and I go and I look under the bed. And then I hear the door open and close. Boom, boom. He goes, so he goes, I'm not a scaredy dude. He goes, but he goes, I stood there just shaking for a couple minutes. And then I thought, I'm going to go check and see just to make sure. He goes, I'm pretty sure it wasn't, but he goes, so I go into the other room to see if she's there. She's not in the bed. So I thought, oh, well, maybe that was her. Why were her eyes glowing like that? So he's trying to rationalize it. And maybe she was just standing in front of the mirror looking at it or something, and she turned. He couldn't figure out what it was. He goes, so he's like, he goes out into the hallway and he calls her. And he says, hey, did you just come into my room or whatever? And he said it was like 1:30 in the morning. And she's like, no, that's her boyfriend. She was at her boyfriend's house. Mm-hmm. She's like, I'm staying the night over at my boyfriend's. And he was like, oh my gosh. So he goes, okay. She goes, why do you ask? He goes, oh, no, I thought I saw you. So she knew immediately there was something going on. So then that same room, they had some guests that came. It was her uncle before he had passed away. 2 years before he'd passed away, he came to visit. And he was from Georgia, or he was living in Georgia. And he was in the military for a year. He was a lifer, and he stayed there, in Georgia. And she said that he came to visit and that they were telling ghost stories. And at one point he was at Fort Benning, Georgia, and they were talking about how there were packs of wild dogs and snakes, and some people even claimed that they would see like these Bigfoot, around the base. So and it started because they were telling him that they had seen some weird stuff there, whatever. So he goes and he stays in that bedroom, and he's like, after that whole night of telling ghost stories, I mean, maybe it's,
yeah,
maybe there was something to it. So anyway, she's sitting there in the bed, and he hears like this tapping noise coming from the mirror, and when he sits up, this thing crawls out of the mirror. Oh, because it's like a dresser with a mirror, right? And it crawls up over the top of it. He sees it. And she's like, my uncle was a no-nonsense guy. He believed in ghosts and Bigfoot, but he had never seen one. He could just retell stories people had told him, So the next day at breakfast, he says, man, I saw something come out of the mirror in that bedroom. When they started talking about what it was, he said it had these pointy ears on top of it that he at first thought were horns because they were so tall. He goes, and then I saw this thing turn to the side and start to crawl toward the door. He goes, and I could see it reaching for the doorknob. And he goes, and I'm laying there. Now, he was a widower. His wife had passed away. So he's sitting there and he's staring at this thing, and he's like, he's always strapped, So he grabs his 45, and he's like, he's like pointing it at this thing in case it decides to turn and move. And he said that it opened the door and then jumped out on all fours. Wolf-like creature.
What the hell?
Yeah. Coming out of that mirror. And he tells her, he goes, I don't know, y'all need to do something with that mirror. And she said, where did you get that piece of furniture? And she's like, well, it was here in the house when we moved in. He goes, you need to take it. So him and her cousin and one of her brothers and they all took it outside, and they took it, and they had a fire pit in the back, and they tore it to pieces and burned it.
Good.
And then he broke the mirror with a sledgehammer. But he said the next day, now this is weird, the next night, that was the last night that he was there, he had a dream that he died. And it was this weird wraith-like being wearing this like cloak or whatever, and it was standing next to him, and it says, you will die. And then he said, I was kind of snarky, he goes, I rolled over and I said, we're all going to die. Mm-hmm. This guy's life in the military. He doesn't care. He's been in combat. He doesn't give a crap. But then 2 years later, 2 years to the day that thing said that, he passed away. Like he died. Mm. And he was there for the July 4th weekend. So it was she said it was like July 6th or July 4th celebration, whatever. So she said that he had passed away. And she was like, it was weird. He died like a couple days after July 4th, or he was either the 6th or 7th, something like that. But I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah.
And he had confided in her. And then he was mowing the lawn, and he got overheated, and he went inside, and his girlfriend was like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, he was, in his 60s, but he was still like very in shape.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? She was like, he was healthy. And then all of a sudden he just felt like he was overheated, and they thought it was a heat stroke. And then it turned out his heart just stopped. So he went into cardiac arrest and just died. So yeah, that was weird. But she said after the destruction of that and the mirror, they didn't really have a lot of problems after that. They didn't see a whole lot of rigmarole going on.
Yeah.
It was
Destroyed the portal.
Yeah, they destroyed it, and that thing was mad. Now, the shadow being with the cloak, that thing continued to haunt that place, and she says to this day it's still roaming around. But they're not seeing any more Bigfoot-looking creatures, and that she said that thing that crawled out of the mirror was a one-time thing. Now, if you have any questions about that, put it in capital letters. I think I told all of the encounters in that particular. Maddie's asking a question. Maddie, you're not allowed to ask questions. You're a mod. You don't answer the mods' questions. Get out of here. So Maddie says, what'd she say? Do you think that his death was caused by this being, or it just predicted it? I don't know. Any more questions I can't answer? Go ahead and put them in caps.
Somebody said, "What's the proper way to get rid of cursed furniture?"
Well,
just find someone you don't like and give it to them, and it's their problem.
exactly.
Problem solved.
I was going to say that, but if you
Two
don't,
birds, one stone.
if you want to be good about it, what you got to do is go and find all kinds of weird ancient runes and carve them all over the furniture, and then do all kinds of weird incantations from forbidden books. And then just sit back and see what happens.
Yeah, and then you say the first two words of the incantation, and then the third one, you forget it. And so you just make it up like Bruce Campbell did.
Like an Army of Darkness.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of said the words, whatever. Reading some of the comments here. Lisa Marie says, what do you think went under the house? The Bigfoot type creature? I don't know, man. And there again, like the Bigfoot thing. Mm-hmm. They were seeing it in and around the house. And now they didn't say they saw it inside, but they saw it around the house. But could it have been drawn to the energy there? Or was it an actual Bigfoot? I mean, I don't know.
Maybe it's just a product of the energy there already.
D. Neal, we took ours to the dump. There you go. I'm pretty sure I have a couple pieces of furniture in our house that was left there by the previous tenants, and I'm not taking them with us. Just put it that way. That could be right, JFA says. Doesn't burning a cursed object cleanse it? Yeah, I mean, maybe. We here have heard stories, too, of people. We had somebody that was telling us they lived in, what is it called? They used to stay in Shiner, where Shiner beer is made. Mm-hmm. His name is Grant. I'm trying to remember his last. It doesn't matter. I don't know. It's just an old friend. I knew him for years. But he stayed in Shiner for a while. And he actually took a piece of furniture back in about 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. He asked me about a piece of furniture he had. And he said, what do you think I should do with it? And I said, I don't know, try burning it. Because he thought it was cursed. Because his parents, Grant's parents have always been into antiques. And so I told him, I said, maybe if you burned it, I don't know. And so he did. And he said, when we were in the back and we were burning this thing, and this isn't a real long story or anything, but it had like this weird green flame that came up off of it. At one point, it was just like, whoosh, real quick. And they were like, whoa. And then they heard like a weird kind of like a guttural growl type sound. mixed with the popping of the wood.
Ah.
And then it gave off this weird smell. And I was like, maybe it was certain points, where it was the way the finish was. I don't know. I mean, you could try to argue that that's what it is. A skeptic would. But then he said that at one point they heard kind of when they were all walking inside for a minute, he was going to get the water hose to make sure that the ground was wet around it. And they heard what sounded like a woman's shriek. So they all turned around and was like, what the heck, I don't know. Quantum Potential says, I saw a giant wolf. Well, you need to send me that story. I mean, this. Why have you not told me this before? You've been in the chat for a while. Saw a giant wolf 9 foot tall. And Missy Bash says, you're not supposed to burn Ouija boards either. So why, I've heard a lot of different stories about what you shouldn't do with Ouija boards. Why would you say that? Why would you say that? Spunky says, do you see that video of some old house being burned down and whistles black smoke leaving the house in a very creepy fashion? Now, I saw a house burned down that did that. Me and my friend Roger, we were sitting there watching it. And it was weird.
So they still have that house?
Yeah, as far as I know, yeah. They're still there. What's crazy is they were going to sell it. When her brother passed away, it became hers. And they were going to sell it. And I guess the people came to look at it, and they were all excited about it. And then the lady went home and had a nightmare about it and literally decided not to buy it.
Dang.
They lived in Louisiana, but they said, they were thinking about relocating and buying it because it was their dream to have this antebellum house. And she said she had not just one, but like a couple different nightmares. And she was like, I just can't, I don't want to do it. So I guess we have the other story that happened in Montgomery. And I can tell that one on, because we got to run. We got to get going here. But I can tell that one on Tuesday. That's a pretty interesting story. But like I said, it's almost 10 o'clock, and we got to get going. We got to do patrol tonight, which sucks.
Yeah.
I hate it. And ain't nobody donating shit, y'all pieces of crap. I'm telling you right now. I'm ashamed of you paratroopers. All I do for you, this is what you do to me. I know you got your government checks by now. Come on. Isn't that like the 1st and 15th or something like that?
I don't know.
But thank you.
I could use some government cheese or something.
Yeah, what's up? They used to have commodities when I was a kid,
I need some government red beans and rice right about now.
My aunt used to
Sounds
get commodities. This makes your teeth look really white, too. So I did this. I put it on Facebook. And some jackhole's like, look at this dude's teeth. Like he's trying to, and there are people that knew, they're laughing, they're like, okay, yeah, whatever. And he said, have you looked at your teeth? I'm like, what's wrong with them? You look like a beaver like that too, like. I'm gonna make that my profile pic. I mean, you're not gonna embarrass me, man. I mean, so I think I'm gonna be embarrassed.
Yeah.
There's a difference between having shame and embarrassment. You should be ashamed of yourself for some of the things you do. But you don't have to be embarrassed. Well, Quantum, after your wolf encounter, did anything else happen? Good night, Caitlin. We'll see everybody. And hey, folks, do us a big favor and just like and subscribe and spread the word about PRT. Because the best thing you can do for PRT, honestly, is just like and subscribe and listen, show up and give us the views. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
That's the best thing you can do for us, and just spread the word, you know. We do work hard here. I know there's people that say that we don't. We just sit here and we do nothing, and that's not true. We do stuff.
Yeah. Tony sits here and do nothing, but me and Wolf work hard.
Tony would beg to differ with everything, that statement, but I will say this. Tony does help flesh out stories, too, which I don't really ask you to do a whole lot of because, like, I did say this last night on the show. I don't know if you were listening, but you're just kind of like, just the facts, ma'am, just the facts.
Yeah.
Like Dragnet, you know.
Short, sweet, and to the point.
It was a dog man. What color? What time? What was the temperature like? When was this? What time of day was it? Really? Okay. Next. It's just like an assembly line of stories.
Yeah, I was gonna say put them on an assembly line.
I mean, you know, and you get upset with people when they demand stories to be told like an assembly line, but you got to not take the stories that way. You got to be able to. And you know, Nellie does it too. Nellie is too. Like, not too nice with the witnesses, is because you can never be too nice, but like, you know, you got to set a limit, you know, to a degree. You know, that's just kind of how you have to do that. You can't, because I mean, I'd love to just talk all day with somebody, but
yeah, because I mean, there's only so many people you can talk to in a day.
you know, you have to set. And if you or somebody who's talked to me, you know, I say, look, hey, I got to run here. I got about 30 minutes, you know. Because I'll have 2 or 3 lined up. And it's aggravating, too, when you keep missing somebody and they keep setting it up, and eventually you just say, to heck with it. And then by the time you give up, then they're like, hey, I'm ready to tell my story again. I'm like, yeah, well. And then they'll go and tell it on someone else's channel. I've seen that lately. That's real cute. Yeah, thank you for that. Shows you how much respect you have for me. Well, thank you for that, author and illustrator B.J. LaPierre. And I hope that Cassie Joe's doing better. How is she? You want to give us an update? You know, Shade, she says it was a good show and that house was pretty crazy. What's even crazier about that is that that's not even like one of the worst of the houses. Like if we did a show... And me and Tony were kind of talking about this the other day, and I think I've thrown this at Anthony. I might have. I don't know if I've told you, Anthony and Nellie. But I know me and Tony were talking about it. And I thought we should do a show, just pick the top 5 most haunted houses that we've ever encountered. And now some of them we've already talked about. There was a house that we talked about on the show, and this is just a recap. Y'all have heard this before. But I know... that the lady that ran Fate magazine, and her name was like Gladys or something like that, or something, or Phyllis Galdi or something. I can't remember her name. Is it?
Yeah, I know her first name. I know her first name is Phyllis.
Phyllis Galdi, I think that's her name. And but one of the things she started doing on her magazine was going back and redoing a story from the past, you know, from like this, because it'd been around for so long. So it was like 60s and 70s. And by the time it's the 90s, the 2000s, whatever, you go back to a story from the 60s and 70s, the new audience, so they don't know that story. Mm-hmm. So it was really cool. I liked those when they would go back in time and retell a story from the past that they had had on their show. But here's one. There was a guy, and this happened like, I haven't told this one in a while, but I remember the guy we talked to, he was from Maine. You remember that? And he was in that house where he would go into the study and it would change.
Yeah, yeah.
You remember him?
Yeah, like he would go into
Yeah.
like there would be books in like different languages or something. That he
Yes,
never seen
yes.
Before and like
And then-
different alphabets. Yeah,
And he saw those, like one of them was like a book about botany or something.
yeah.
And the plants were bizarre. And then he would go back and it would be something different. And there was another guy that lived there. It was like his roommate. And that guy and his girlfriend, if I remember correctly, they went into there and they came and they had missing time.
Yeah.
And she got freaked out. I mean, it was so. I mean, you know, because me and Tony were kicking it around the other day. And me and Tony are also thinking about doing a comedy thing. I don't know if you guys would be interested in it, but we're thinking about doing something where you go out and, you know, you just go to like Home Depot and do comedy.
Yeah.
Watch, you'll see what I'm talking about. But it's you know, I just thought, you know, imagine putting together a list of like the most haunted places, and you just talk, you know, it would be, because we've already told some pretty scary places. There was another one that I think you called it haunted objects or something like that, or something, and it was the woman that had that brush, and I think she was sitting in front of a mirror and she saw this like I don't know what you would call it, like a woman with fangs, but with like a decrepit face that appeared, you know, and that one was crazy. And then there was, and since then, I remember her, because like a couple years ago, I think we told that story, but not too long after that, she gave us another encounter about something that crawled out of a closet in her granddaughter's room or whatever. And so, I don't know. I got to go back and look at that. There's so many stories that people give, they send you. I mean, like today, I was thinking today's kind of unusual because I don't remember getting a whole lot today. And do me a favor. Did Daisy May 439? Is she blocked or something? Because she just sent me a message saying she cannot get on.
Let me check the settings.
Check it and see if she's unblock her. If she is. Okay, so I got 3 stories on Messenger. And
All right, Daisy May, you are unblocked. I don't know how you got blocked, but it just happens by accident sometimes.
especially if Scorp's there.
Yeah.
It's like, that dude is the block master. Then he's like, oh, shit, dude. Okay, so I only had 2 on email today. But then again, some of them go to spam. I didn't look in the spam folder. But the other day I looked in the spam folder. There was a bunch of them in there.
Yeah.
And then this guy, I want to say something to this guy. I mean, and I don't know why you would say this. But Steve, I'm not going to say your last name, Steve D. He sends me a message and he says, I joined the program. I love and believe everything and I would love to be friends. Well, I tried a friend request, but that didn't work. I guess you have to buy the $50 a month platform to recognize people. Too bad, because I like listening to the stories. Once again, all about the money.
What?
So this, yeah. So Steve, this was like, not really sure why you would say that, because I found you in the spam folder of the message requests. So sometimes I'll forget about the spam folder on the messenger.
Yeah.
And so how do I can't see the screen here.
Oh.
So I went in there into the spam folder of the messenger and I found your comment. And I'm like, Steve, I'm not. If anybody knows me and they know and they've been around the show, that's not what I'm about, dude. Okay, that's not cool. Okay, that is not. Come on, man. You didn't even give me a chance. I found your message in there, and I went to, and actually I accidentally called him on accident because I was trying to go to profile so that I could go and respond to your friend request. and I accidentally called. Didn't mean to.
Yeah, you got to not take things personally.
Yeah. You can't be upset. I mean, and if I was, one of those people that's all I cared about. Now, here is something that we have to talk about. This is a little uncomfortable. We have to talk about this. But we have a ton of work right now. It has gotten more, and so we may have to scale back some on the number of shows we do. And that's why we're thinking about cutting out Saturday. We're not real sure how we're going to do that yet, what we're going to do. We want to keep Friday going, and then we want to keep Sunday going. Tuesdays have been kind of, I'll tell the story about the people, what happened to them, the Montgomery, Alabama story. I'll give that one. We'll do that one on Tuesday. I could do an hour on that one because we don't have time to do the podcast right now.
Yeah, we were swamped.
It's just, we're slammed. We don't have time to edit anything, okay? That's why the live stream is just so much easier. What's funny, though, is somebody that was on the Paranormal Roundtable group, and they were like, what's going on? There haven't been any shows since May 4th or something. And like 50 people were on there, and they're like, he's on like 3 times a week,
Yeah.
Like, they've never heard of YouTube?
Yeah, the paratroopers were on top of that. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, they weren't mean to him.
Nah.
And let's not be mean or ugly to anybody. Anybody that's a listener to the show, don't be mean to him. I mean, but it was like, what? Who's AJ? Are we doing security for AJ? Who's that? Alex Jones? We don't do security for him. I don't know. Is PRT going back to rumbling time soon? Yes, but they need to get some kinks worked out. Okay, now I did send some messages, and they had actually communicated with me a little bit because they were inviting me to go to Rumble.
Yeah.
And that's why I ended up there. Rumble is glitchy with the app in particular.
Yeah, whenever we do a show on Rumble, try to watch either on your computer, or if you're gonna watch on your phone, just watch it through your phone's web browser. Don't even bother with the app right now. It's too glitchy. It doesn't work right. People are saying they can't even play the stream from the app, or people can play it but they can't chat, or people can chat but they can't. They want to do the super chats, and it just doesn't work. One thing after another with the app. Just watch on your phone. I mean, on the web browser.
Rich Sykes says, "Can you do pre-recorded shows in place of the live streams?" Okay, Rich. We just said that. We don't have time to edit. I would love to, but we don't have time right now. I would love to just be able to do those and throw them out there. We don't have time to edit.
Yeah, the editing takes a long time.
Because, you try to do the edit, and then it's like, boom, and then you can't do the edit, and then you got to go, and then you got to look at this, and then the next thing you know, they got a sweaty butt, and then they're blocking. I don't even know what this guy over here is doing. He's throwing his guy. Look, he went out of bounds. That's John Madden. See, Quantum Potential says, Josh, do a John Madden impression.
Okay, now Harry Carey.
Cubs win. Cubs win. Yeah, and then you had Pat Summerall. He's like, John, I think that player's dead. You know why he's dead? You know what the problem is? What he did not. He ate too many fatty foods, and he took them off of my plate. That's why I killed him. Voltron, what happened to Voltron? You show him back up. He says, "Hello, strangers and peeps. How was jail? How was it? Were you?" He really was. I'm joking, Voltron. I don't know where you were at because you've been gone for a long time from the chat.
Yeah, we miss you.
He just decided to show back up. He's been saving the galaxy because Voltron, he travels the galaxy.
Yeah, that is a full-time job.
Yeah, and that's what he does. Like the actual cartoon, that's what they did. They would travel around their little spaceship, and then they would turn into these like cat dog type robot things, and then they would join together, and they were Voltron, and he was always defending the universe or whatever. Will Ferrell did his own version of Harry Carey. It was like, I don't even know how to do it.
Oh,
He'd
yeah.
be like, I like hot dogs. This is so good. Like Cubs win. Cubs win.
Dude, it was
And
hilarious.
he'd shake his head.
Yeah.
And then Will Sasso's Kenny Rogers. Hi,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
Kenny Rogers.
Yeah.
Kenny Rogers Roasters. Don't you like chicken? Come on, guys. It's Kenny Rogers Roasters.
Dude, Will Sasso, Steven Seagal is legendary.
Steven Seagal.
Oh my god.
He'd go up and just like touch people and they'd just fall over like this.
Yeah.
It was like, and then he'd be like, you know what I'm going to do to you? And he'd just start mumbling, grab people, and then they fall over. What was the guy that did the Stewart? He's like,
Oh, I don't know that guy's
little-
name.
I forgot his name. Was it like, that was Mad TV, wasn't it?
Yeah, Matt TV.
Yeah, Mad TV was hilarious, man. That kid
Yeah, I
was-
always liked that show like so much. Dave Marianne loved Mad TV.
yeah, she watched the crap out of that.
Mm-hmm. Like that old lady with the glasses. She'd always go, oh, oh.
She's like, oh, oh, oh.
Yeah.
Like when her kid was in that lady was funny too, man. She was in Parks and Recreation. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she was like the journalist or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was her name? Oh, man, it's gonna drive me nuts now. Mo Collins.
Oh yeah.
Mo Collins, that was her name. I used to love to
Yeah, Mo
watch Mad
Collins is
TV,
funny.
and she was hilarious. And then the girl that played Holly on King of Queens, the one that would walk Arthur. They pay him
Oh,
like
yeah.
he was a dog.
Yeah.
What was his name? Stiller, Jerry Stiller.
Yeah.
I remember one episode of King of Queens, and he's like, Douglas, thinking about ordering some pizza from a little place right there in the city, Domino's.
Yeah.
He's like, look. The
And, like, his
funniest
body language,
intro
too,
ever.
was
Yeah, the
hilarious.
way he would move.
Douglas. You know?
I need $100, and he's like, no. And they were sitting there reading the cereal box, and they got into a fight, like barely even spoke any words.
Yeah.
And Kevin's character, what was his name, Doug?
Yeah.
He just started punching the cereal box. Like, I literally did that with my brother, man. I was like, dude, what the hell? And he's just like, and I'm like, and next thing you know, I'm punching the box, and I'm trying to hit him, and oh, well, whatever. Somebody says, Fire Marshal Bill. Let me tell you something. Yeah, there you go. That's your moment of zen right there, folks.
Yeah.
And we are out. We will see you.
Oh wait, the
Thank you for tuning in. No, we're not doing anything. Let's get out of here. What do you want?
giveaways.
Man. We gotta give these people stuff.
Yeah.
Y'all didn't even give us nothing, man. Y'all just don't even love us no more. At least get to
They
the
gave us
likes.
their likes. Well,
How many likes we got?
they gave us 308 likes.
And there's like 500 people. Where's the other 2 people? 200 people. Y'all need to go
we
and
got
hit the
that.
like button. You don't hit the like button, I ain't liking you. What is it? Quantum Potential says, Josh, have you ever watched the Twilight Zone episode Eck? What is that one? I don't know what that one is.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Brown says, I've given thousands of likes. Well, you did, but your homies haven't. And Melissa, because homie don't play that. Exactly. You know, and those the two dudes, what was it? Jamie Foxx and the other dude. And they're like, hated that. And they're like,
Oh yeah.
I don't like this game. Talking about football.
Yeah.
Where's all the man supposed to chase me? And then what was that character that Jamie Foxx would do? It's like, it was like a female, but she was like, and everybody was trying to get away from her because she was always trying to like be in love or whatever.
He actually does like really good impressions, Jamie
Yeah,
Foxx.
he's good comedy.
Yeah.
He's one of those versatile actors, like
Yeah.
what's his face, Mark Wahlberg. Mark Wahlberg is funny as shit.
Yeah.
he can play serious too. Mm-hmm. Like in, I loved him in that movie with Jack Nicholson and what's his name, Matt Damon.
The Departed.
The Departed. Yeah, and
I was just
Leonardo
watching clips
DiCaprio.
from that movie the other day. It's a masterpiece.
I love that. I love the way he just like was in his apartment when he showed up.
Yeah.
He's just like, oh, whatever, just kill me. And he's just like, see ya. Like he took care of business on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mark Wahlberg is a great actor because he can be funny.
Yeah. Yeah, Pain and Gain was
Yeah,
hilarious.
he can be funny. Oh, dude, yes. He can be so funny. Yeah, I believe in fitness.
Yeah.
But enough about comedy, folks. So let's just do the giveaway. So if you are a member, you will be in green. So if you have a membership, you can be entered into this.
I'm going to change the chat to members only temporarily for the
The
giveaway.
other guys, James Lewis said, heck yeah, that one's hilarious.
All right, so if you're a member and you haven't won, then just let us know right now.
I saw Caitlin earlier. I don't know if she's still in here, but she said that she had bought merchandise, but she had never won. So if you're still here, Caitlin, so I think, you know what? I think I heard her say goodnight earlier. Sorry. Melissa Cronenwetter says, I've never won anything. Okay. You want to pick her?
Yeah.
Okay. So we got you. We're doing, listen, this is very important. We're doing the mail off tomorrow. So unless you want to wait a couple weeks to even get your stuff mailed off, you need to go ahead and give us your information tonight, right now, so that when we leave here, we have it and we're able to mail it off to you, okay? So that's very important.
Rita Burnett says she hasn't won, but I don't think we should have to, like you shouldn't have to win a giveaway, Rita. I mean, like,
No.
why don't you just send us an email and let us know, like just pick your prize. Just, I mean, tell us what you want, and we'll send it to you. You know, so like you're good. You don't have to win. You've earned it. Let's see who else.
So yeah, Rita, just send us an email of what you want. I'll send you, if you don't have my books, I'll send them to you. You've donated so much, you deserve it. So if you want my books, you want a couple of Barton's books or whatever, David Weatherly, just tell me what you want, and we'll send you a hoodie. We have any hoodies left?
Yeah.
I know it's summer, but you know you'll wear it eventually, and we'll send you a hoodie. We'll send you a shirt, a hat, whatever you want. Okay? Because you always take care of us, we'll take care of you. Same goes for Kate Hunter if you're out there listening, or what's his name, Amersec, the security guy. Yeah, you guys always take care of us. We'll take care of you. Zune says, I have not won, but I would like to buy a zipper hoodie soon. So how about this? How about we just give you one? How about you win? How about that? We'll give you one. Venture Security. There you go. Yeah. So Zune, if you send me your information, give me your size, we'll send you. We have some zip-up hoodies left, don't we?
I believe so.
Okay, and we'll send you one. So Zune just won. Rita, just send us your information, what you need. Zune says no, no, no. What does that mean, no, no, no? If you're hell-bent on paying for it, then you can donate through the PayPal thing or whatever, or don't. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We're not here to try to get donations. Okay, those are lies made up by people that are jealous. So all you got to do is just give us your information. We'll send it to you. And Melissa Cronenwetter says, how do I send you my info? Very simple. Josh Turner at prtpodcast.com. Send me your information, Josh Turner at prtpodcast.com through email. Now, Melissa, if you have me on Facebook, just send it to me through Messenger, and I will promptly ignore it. I'm kidding. No, I will get you. Don't worry.
And to answer your question, Missy, yes, we got your email. We have your stuff packed along with everyone else's, and we're going to be shipping it all off tomorrow, first thing tomorrow. So.
Who else? We have, what, 2 people now we've picked? Zune says, I would like to support you guys by buying your merch. That's fine. You can go and buy something, too, if you want. You can go to, it's on Printful, right, is where we use. Yeah. But pretty soon we're going to be switching it to Seven Clay. Once he gets his, we hammer out the agreement and we get, and I'm going to have, you're going to be able to go to Seven Clay and get our merchandise, Texas Front Porch merchandise, Blondes and Booze merchandise, Barton's merchandise, everybody who's doing the merchandise, Boomer's merchandise, Blondes and Booze, who else did I say? Yeah, and you'll be able to get it all in one spot. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, probably going to be able to do that pretty soon.
Yeah, so we got one more person to pick.
Yeah.
Um,
Anybody else that hasn't won?
Charles Centers, have you won? I'm gonna wait on your response.
Shade Viking, yeah. The spam folder, Anthony has to tell me every now and then to go check that, and I'll go check it, and there'll be a ton of stuff in there.
Okay, so I'm gonna pick
Charles Center
Centers.
says no.
Okay, so then you're the third winner, Charles. Just like I said, send us your name, your mailing info, and your shirt size to the email that's scrolling across the screen, like right at the top. Josh Turner at POTpodcast.com.
And if you didn't win tonight, remember, next Sunday we'll do it again. And in fact, if we can get this, whatever, we'll probably do it again on Friday. So we're going to do like two people on Friday. But make sure you become a member. You have to be a member to win. That's the only thing we can really do for our members to buy the membership. That is the perk, because we keep everything from behind a paywall. We keep everything from going behind a paywall. And in order to keep everything going the way it does without going to a paywall, we basically depend on your kindness, and donating and showing up, giving us likes and views, and buying the memberships. I mean that's what helps, and that way we can keep it free, and we don't stuff a lot of ads in there. I think we have 4 ads per hour.
Yeah.
Is it so? Every 15 minutes or so we'll have an ad. I've seen some people.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're doing. I tried to watch a guy the other day. I was so disappointed. I couldn't believe it. It was like, I counted 20 in 1 hour.
Jeez.
And that's not even the worst. But the only reason is because this guy was somebody I wanted to watch. I wanted to hear what he had to say. I just couldn't do it. And so, and unfortunately, I was using an account, or I wasn't using an account. I was with somebody that didn't have the whatever, and my account was was screwed up, and so I had to sit there and try to use it. And I was like, dude, I couldn't do it. I could not watch it, and so I just waited until I got home, and for some reason, YouTube decided to. I'm not gonna bash them. I'm on their platform, but they decided to not let me in my account, so I couldn't get in. And then I kept using my password, which I know was my password, so I thought maybe I was compromised. And then I got home and it worked. So it was like my phone wouldn't let me do it. So I was sitting there, and I had to just use the internet that was at the place. And I tried watching it, and it was at what was that at? It was one of our accounts where they have the internet, the internet or whatever. And I tried to watch this. I just couldn't do it. I mean, it was just, it boggled my mind, because I don't see the ads when I'm using my phone or my account at home. But I saw it on there, and I was just like, this is too much. And I was just so angry. Damn near threw my phone. Like, what good's that going to do? It's going to break your phone. It's like, why am I not able to get into this? But whatever. Yeah, Overbuilt Motor, they do this. It's Overbuilt Automotive. Sorry, they do this BS where they for some reason, to me, and I know this is going to sound conspiratorial, but it's almost like they want you to put your password in. Like they're wanting you to do it so they can get it, or I don't know what it is. I feel that way. I don't know. That's probably not correct, but I'm a suspicious person by nature. Period. So Caitlin just shows back up, says, Josh, I was still listening, heard you, but could not respond.
Oh, she probably couldn't chat because the chat was members only.
Because of the website. So Caitlin, did you say you had not won before? Is that what you said? You'd never won? But it was a members only giveaway. Okay. But I'll make an exception because you've been a listener for a long time. So go ahead, send me your information, and we'll throw you in there. But you got to promise to get a $50 tier Patreon, and over the next 2 weeks, you have to donate at least $500, and you have to become a member and gift at least 20 memberships to everybody, and then we'll be cool.
All for one prize.
And in exchange, you could be entered into win a $5 off coupon for a brand new car. Yeah. Woo. Woohoo. Yeah. So that's how it works here. We are so generous. We are generous people. So anyway, yes, thanks to everybody. Send me your email. So we have 4 people. We got Zune that wants a hoodie. They want a zip-up hoodie, right? Caitlin. And then we got, who else?
Melissa.
Charles Centers, and then Melissa. All right? So you 4. Send me your information. See, I can hold up the fingers right there unless I try to do 3, and then look, when I go like that, the other finger goes down with it. You see that? It automatically goes down. I can't hold it up. See, you can do it. The reason is because of this knuckles.
No.
Look at this. So weird. But, like my dad said, stop hitting people. I'm like, okay, I learned it from you, Dad. I learned it from getting hit by you. Really did. So, yeah, congrats to the winners. PRT rocks. Thank you, Amy Krill. You know we rock. We do. We really do. Pat myself on the shoulder. And like I said, sometimes you just have to say, I'm the best. And, well, darn it, people like me. And you just give yourself a big hug. God, people get so mad when I do that. They do. I got some hate from that. They were like, how can you just sit there and hug yourself? And I'm like, you should hug yourself too. I said, aren't there good things about you? Well, no, not really. I'm like, sure. I'm sure there's something. I mean, I'm sure every now and then you smell good. They're like, no, I smell terrible. Oh, wow. Well, I mean, I'm sure you're loyal to your wife. They're like, no, I cheat on her all the time. Like, geez. Well, you love your children. No, not really. I gave them up for adoption. Oh, my gosh. Okay, so there's nothing good about you. Sorry. Good night. Anyways, folks, I kid. I joke. I mess around. But serious business. Stuff happens to people. So what we're going to do is Tuesday, because we don't have time to do the editing right now, okay? We really don't. And I got to run. I really got to run. I got to go do patrol. Here's what I got to tell you. Okay? Tuesday, we'll be back, 6 o'clock, okay, Tuesday. And then I think I'm going to be interviewing somebody on Wednesday or Thursday. I'm not going to be on Blondes and Booze Thursday, but I don't want to do the show at the same time that they're on. But I got to interview this guy, so I'm going to try to bring him on. And then I have another guy who's a big surprise. I don't want to say anything because, but a lot of he's a pretty popular guy, and he reached out to me through his publicist, I guess is what he is, whatever. And he's going to come on the show in a couple of weeks. And that's going to be interesting because I have a lot of questions to ask him. Okay. So we got a lot of interviews planned, a lot of things going coming up, whatever. And I don't even want to say the people's names because then somebody will run out and try to mess with them and say, don't go to that guy's show. Come. Don't like him. Don't trust the Spartans. Okay, Ephiotes, all right, and then they're like, ooh, who are you? I was a part of the party, but nah, I want to be a part of the Persian army. Like, oh my gosh, this guy, he came, he was like a dwarf with this big hump on his back, and he said, you're terrible. And I'm like, we really are. We really are the worst. He's right. Ephiotes is pretty much spot on. You still want to be on the show? And they're like, absolutely. That guy was gross. We don't care. Alice Zoom says, hope your merch are made in USA. Are they? Nothing against other countries. No, they're made in all kinds of countries. But we use only the finest sweatshops.
Yeah.
Yeah, only the finest.
And we use only we only use quality, organic, grass-fed, 100% humane child labor in our sweatshops. Okay?
That is it. They have to be at least at the age of 2 before they can work. We don't believe in this infant working. That's horrible. That's a terrible thing. I'm joking. Honestly, I don't know, Alice. I really don't know where it's made. I haven't bothered to look, but I'm pretty sure most of the stuff from Seven Clay is actually here
Yeah.
because I think he does that. But I don't know where they get it from what's it called? Printful. I don't know where they get it from. You can look it up. Tell me because I haven't even bothered. That's a good question. I haven't even bothered to look into that. But no, I am not a proponent of child labor. Okay, seriously. But it does happen all over. But I was a child laborer. I mean, I'm not joking. I had a job since I was like 12 or 11. And then I shoveled horse manure when I was 14, 15, all summer. And I worked as a lifeguard one summer as a kid, and I also worked. I mean, it was kind of ridiculous. I was a big kid and I lied about my age. So at the age of 13, I was a lifeguard. And I told him I was 16. Now back then, and this is back in the old days, but your IDs were a little different. And so I went to the pulga, the flea market.
Yeah.
And I got a fake ID and it said I was 17. That's what I did in boxing too. Like, you can't enter Golden Gloves. You're only 16. No, I'm not. Look at this fake ID. And how are you going to revoke it after you win? That's bull crap.
Yeah.
It's not fair. That should have, especially if you're younger. It's like you scored a touchdown, you only had 10 men on the field. Oh, we're calling it back. I did something even more amazing.
That's why you can never trust people who are obsessed with the rules.
Yeah, red tape people.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, folks, thank you to all the winners, or congratulations to all the winners. Thank you for everybody who donated. Thank you for everybody who showed up. Give us a like and subscribe. Thank you for listening to these incredible encounters. Thank you to the people that sent them in. I really appreciate that you guys sent them in. Marissa and Ida, thank you, and to your families that helped and gave us the stories to help out with the stories. We are going to retell that story. We are going to tell the story about the one in Montgomery, Alabama, or outside of there. And that one is an interesting one. Shadow thing and something else. You're going to like that one, trust me. And then we got a bunch of other ones in the chamber that we got to do. Now, don't be mad at us if we have to scale back a little bit here and there, or take some time off, because we have to weigh, like, our job is very important. And right now we're trying to get money together to finish remodeling. It's going to cost us $50,000 to remodel. Now, I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to get that. But I believe 100%. I am a person who believes in Christ. I believe in God. And through Christ, who strengthens me, all things are possible.
That's right.
And we've always managed to get things done. And I'm a doer, not a dreamer. I'm a dreamer and a doer. Let's put it that way. Some people are dreamers, some people are doers. I'm both. And when I say I'm going to do something, believe it. I claim it in Jesus' name and it happens, It's not 100%, because sometimes Jesus is like, you know what? You don't need that. And you think very strongly that you do. But, God will tell you otherwise. Trust the Holy Spirit. Trust, sometimes it's not in the cards, man. It's not in the cards. And you know what? I was mad as heck because the situation didn't work out. But you know what? A better situation came along. And I'm glad it did. It didn't work out, because I would have been stuck in a bad situation. And God knew. God knew. And God was like, why are you crying? Why are you all upset and throwing a fit about it? And it was like God telling you, be quiet. I know what I'm doing. Who's the captain of this ship? Right? It's not you. So be it. The will of God. Douche volt. Right? All right, guys. We love you, and good night. Where is the... Trying to find something here. I'm saying good night, and I can't even tell you how to get up here. Well, that can't be it. I was trying to do the exit music. Won't be as cool now that I told everybody what we're doing. Go Mavs.
right, tell them good night.
All right. Good night.